Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Night Owl, a show that we do twice a week where we discuss all the latest in pop culture, news and reviews, and gaming news. My name is Price of Reason, and with me I have my co host, as usual, Professor R2. How's it going, Professor?
It's going, rolling our way towards new year, thinking back on everything that happened in 2024, all the good things and a whole lot of just wild, crazy things that happened. But yeah, everything's going well here. How have you been, Price?
I've been pretty good. I was actually doing a little bit of celebrating for the New Year's, but I managed to get away, uh, sort of. I kind of had to abruptly leave, sort of a dinner party situation.
Oh goodness,
And you know, the night owl, the night owl comes first.
the night owl calls.
Yeah, even before the new year. Yeah, it's T minus 11 minutes, Empress and M. And
Yes.
how's it going, Void King and Rob Not Scuba? Great to see you guys here. Yeah, we're getting closer to the time, and we're very honored that you'd spend this time with us. And we're certainly moving along. And yeah, so I was at this dinner party. I had to leave because the night owl is above everything else. I feel like that movie with Will Ferrell. What was it? The one that he's a soccer coach, and there's the
Oh yes.
two kids from Italy, but they work for a butcher, and then he says like, "Meat before football, meat before anything." I don't know what. There's some.
Football.
So the night owl before me going to a dinner party. That was the bottom line. That it's all very nice. And Kivo 1961. How's it going, man? Nice to see you too. The Dead Man. So grateful you guys are hanging
Yeah.
out. Empress NM says Price left Leslie Headland sitting at the bar alone. I will say, and this is something that in the story that always I get asked for that stupid thing with the bar, the part that usually people gloss over is that actually about 10 years later, I was at sort of a cocktail party that didn't have a ton of people in it, and she was there. And I actually didn't realize she was there because I didn't recognize her. It didn't register with me that she was the same person. I think like 10 years had gone by since our previous encounter, so I actually didn't recognize her because she looked different. And I think that at the time she was already with whoever is her wife now. The only reason I found this out is because later, much later, I'm telling you years later, I think in recent years, I found pictures from that event. And when I looked at the pictures, I noticed that there was a picture where she was at the event. And this is like a very small cocktail party type of situation. And in the picture, I'm like, oh, okay. From the pictures now, do you get what I'm saying? Because I know what she looks like now, I was able to understand that it's her, and I think she's with the same lady that was in Star Wars in
Yeah.
those pictures.
Looking back at that old picture and going, "Wow, that's a conspicuously square head in the background."
Something
Who's
like
that?
that. Yeah, no, it was a transitional period. It's like I met her when there wasn't a square head, and then today it's like the square head. This is somewhere in the middle. It's like a hybrid between the non-square head datas and the square head, but she looks more like she does now than she did when I met her, when I looked at the picture. And the strange thing is that only so many years later I saw her in that picture, and I'm like, which means I was at an event, 90 something percent sure that probably she was standing next to me at some point in the evening, and I just didn't recognize her. I didn't say, "Oh, that's that girl that I had a drink with, like drinks with all those years ago." Didn't make the connection.
Well,
Yeah, no, I
that's
understand that
acceptable.
Melvin Deeply is going to be cutting this and posting it everywhere. It's not even that interesting, but it is a true story. There is, I shouldn't say that. There is somewhere online that like you could probably go and find pictures from an event that you'll find me and her at the same event. Such a thing exists.
It's funny. I told them to ask you about your relationship with Jennifer Grey, and nobody brought it up.
Did I tell you where I met her? No, I shouldn't say
Yes.
this. I told you where I met her?
Yeah.
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. It was a more moment of weakness. I shouldn't have told you where I met her. And I
Yeah,
have a
we talked
picture with
about it
her.
a while back. Yeah.
It was the strangest thing that I actually that was a surreal situation. I mean, I think I told you, so the cat's out of the bag now anyways, right? I told you what it was.
Yeah, you did.
It was an event for, like, women's rights,
Yeah.
and, I actually didn't wanna go to this event, but there was a reason. It had to do something for work that I ended up at this event, and, I think I told you that, like, the irony is I'm standing at a women's rights event, and in close proximity to me is James Franco. And I don't know why that sums up like Hollywood. That I just summed up Hollywood for you. A bunch of ladies are like doing equal rights, and like next to me is standing James Franco. I don't know why, but that kind of shows you the I don't know if hypocrisy. I don't know what word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So
Strange.
yeah,
Yeah.
so this is all true. I met her at an event and James Franco was there, but this isn't an event like a small one. This is like a public type of event where I guess she was fighting for women's rights or something,
Hmm.
I suppose.
Yeah.
It was a very strange situation, that event. It was educational on the one hand, and on the other hand, it would be the last time that I'd ever be in an event like this. And even then, I kind of there's probably documentation of me at this event, and I don't feel comfortable with it. It's like one day somebody's going to be like, "Why were you here?" And what am I going to say, Professor? How did I end up in this weird thing?
Mm.
Standing next to James Franco as women are fighting for their rights or something.
Yep.
Ah, but, it is, Empress and M said, "Sounds like a giant parody of life." I feel like in a way, I'm sort of if Forrest Gump was a bit smarter, I feel like I'm sort of a Forrest Gump of the entertainment industry. You know, when that movie just ends up, like, in all these strange places
Yeah.
and it's kind of ridiculous that he's there? I've had situations like that.
You're just like, "Where
Oh,
how did
I
I
have
end up here?"
and the truth is I have so many, but, a lot of them I couldn't, you know, it's already too much that I probably couldn't even mention them, but I have a lot of them, and I bet you in all of them, they probably thought I was stupid, like the way they think that Forrest Gump is stupid, they probably, at least in many of those cases, thought, "Who is this dummy?"
Well,
Because
if you'd stop sitting on park benches and offering people chocolates, it'd probably go a lot better for you, but, you know.
I didn't offer anybody chocolates, it's just that I feel like they were all in some kind of strange matrix of their own, and usually
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
exactly the guy you don't want there.
Yeah.
Saying the thing that annoys them, saying the comment that's not like the PC comment. You know what I mean? We laugh about it a lot in our end and how kind of in a bubble they are and how isolated and strange they are. But I've had situations where I've felt it firsthand, where I was just me, the way you know me, and then there was just people there, and I think that they didn't understand me.
Yeah, that's you know, I did I had my cousin, that, was in Hollywood for a number of years trying to break in, to the business. Uh, did a lot of extra work, a little bit of work in theater and some small productions, but that's about all she got, and finally decided she'd given it her shot, and well, mostly she was out of money. She was like, "Okay, I'm going home." And so she she mentioned that, like, for the most part, like, when you're on those sets with those people, when you're at events with those people, like, if you're not, like, part of the like, if you're not recognized as being sort of part of that elite of the known actors, the known actresses, or the people who are clearly, like, part of the production who are important, you almost don't exist for a lot of those people. Like,
I've seen a lot of things.
they don't even recognize that you're there. Like, she said it's not everybody, but it's just a lot of them
I
that
agree.
you
Not
just
everybody,
kind
but
of you're just kind of you might as well be a robot or a piece of furniture.
I can understand that. I've seen a lot of different things happen, and a lot of things that I didn't like, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and my position was more doing business sort of within that industry. It's a bit complicated, and I think I've said a little bit about what I've done in the past, but I found myself in a lot of situations where I was either doing business or even in meetings and things like that with people that are very much you know I don't know how to explain it, but people that are very active or even have certain positions in the industry, and there was always this feeling that there's this kind of strange wave that they're all on, like a wavelength, and I'm on like a different wavelength,
Yeah.
and I like my wavelength way better than theirs. At the
Yes.
time, I sometimes oh, we're getting close to the thing. It's already
Yeah, I'm watching the time here.
11:59. Is there like a
Here, I'll share a video here.
share a ball that's falling or something? I don't know what.
I'll share
Some balls in the
share
air,
some falling balls. Some
falling balls.
Yeah, here. Let me see if I can.
Empress and M says it's the baby oil wavelength.
That could be one of them, yes. If this will Oh, come on.
We're both on a spaceship. That's the part
Yes.
that I'm happy with. Did you manage to share it?
Continue. I'm working on it. Here we go.
Great, here.
Do I have audio? You getting any audio?
It's okay. Well, we can I don't hear the audio, but it's not
Oh,
really
okay. Yeah.
I mean, there's a ball there and it's in
Yeah.
the air.
This is
But
this is the Earth Cam stream from Times Square. Very,
it
very wet,
it
very
should have
damp
been
Times Square.
I think it kind of should have already been, but you know what? Let's just do the thing. It's already 15, 14,
This
13,
might be running a little
12.
behind. There we go.
Oh,
5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
1.
Happy New
Woo!
Year.
Happy New
2025. Happy
Year.
New Year to everybody that's
Happy New
hanging out
Year,
with us.
everybody.
Robnut Skubla, Happy New Year. Void King, Happy New Year.
Yes.
Empress and M, Happy New Year. Kivo 1961, Happy New Year. The Dead Man, Happy New Year. Let's see. Did I miss anybody?
Yeah.
Eraserhead, Happy New Year. Empress and M, I think I said Happy New Year. Kelly Hans, Happy New Year. Seabrew 1138, Happy New Year. Watcher X, Happy New Year. Marlo Sherendorf, Happy New Year. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
Faye, Happy New Year. Super nice of you all to hang out with us. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, today we're going to be very relaxed in our stream. I think that we can just kind of look back at things that happened in 2024, but really look at how maybe things are going to be in 2025, hopefully better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess what I was saying was, since we're shooting the breeze, that I actually was in some meetings, even sometimes with networks and things like that. Man, it's such a 99% of the time in that whole town, it's people can I say jerking each other off? Is that
Yeah, that seems fine. Yeah. Yeah.
meaning like and nobody does anything. It's like, "Oh, it's so good. It's so good." Everybody wants to agree with each other and say how great something is. Like even when it comes to pitching shows, everybody loves everything. It's so great. It's so great. But nothing gets done unless, certain circumstances happen. And sometimes I was in situations where I'd see the kind of things that a network would greenlight versus maybe something I've had situations that I've actually even pitched or stuff like that. And I'm not saying that just because I have a big ego, which maybe I do, but I think in some cases even the proof is in the pudding that the things that I saw that they were doing ended up being complete flops, and I knew they would be flops. I knew that they were just dumb and doing stupid crap, and that like in some cases I had ideas that were better than them. I guess what I'm saying is, you know what the frustrating thing is, I'm going to sound full of myself. I'm going to tell you the truth that I was in a situation where sometimes I sit with people that are supposed to be really, important in their position or whatever it is, or successful or whatever you want to call it, and I would be sitting with them and thinking to myself, I am smarter than this person. I understand more than this person. How is this person like in charge when I am sort of smarter than that person? It's a terrible you can say that I'm full of myself, and
Oh
it's
no.
a terrible way to think, but it happened to me. I mean, what can I do? That's what I thought to myself.
Yeah.
There were once in a while, there would be occasions where I'd run into somebody where I'd say, "Okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy's no idiot." I've had situations like that, but more often than not, I would sit and think to myself, it's a guy or a girl, I'd say, "How do these people have jobs?" And that's something about that industry that, I don't know. Anyhow,
Yeah. No, that I think that's an experience that many of us have had, in lots of different areas of work. You where you're it's just kinda sitting there and you're in a room and you're listening to people talk and you're going, "Why are these people telling me what to do? They're morons."
it
Like,
happens. It does, and I bet it happened to you too because you
oh,
have
yeah.
always, given me the impression that you're pretty smart yourself. I can
Well, I
imagine
appreciate that.
situations that you'd sit there and you'd have to deal with, dum-dums, but
Yes.
you'd be surprised there's so many fields. Almost every field is filled with dum-dums.
Oh, yeah.
How does that work? And I always feel like the ones that are a bit smarter are the ones that everybody kind of conspires to make sure that they don't do too well. Do you
Oh,
do you
oh,
get
no,
what
yeah. Yeah,
do
I
you
know
get
what
what I'm
you mean.
trying to
I know
say?
exactly what you mean. No, yeah,
Like,
they
sometimes 5 dum-dums would prefer to conspire and make sure that you don't get ahead.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
somehow, and that's being on the same wavelength. They almost don't even have to talk about it. It's like their energies combined, kind of like a Voltron of stupidity.
Mhm.
They've
Yeah.
all, like, come
Well, that's
together like, one big Voltron of, like, some, jealous, stupid, behavior.
Yeah, and that's actually a known phenomenon. I don't want to get all the way into it, but basically, you've got your A tier players, you're the people who are smart, they're with it, they know what's going on. They are almost always going to be looking for other A tier players to work with. They're going to be looking for other people who can bring it, who are capable. If you got people who are B tier, they're not looking for A tier people because A tier people are gonna outshine them. They're gonna outperform them, and they're gonna be shown to be idiots. So, B tier people only look for other B tier people, or more often, they look for C tier and D tier people who are not gonna outshine them. And so, they can stay in whatever position they're in, and they can keep doing what they're doing. They're not gonna go out there and look for the best talent because that best talent would be better than they are. So
Absolutely. By the way, somebody says freeze Nelson Mandela. I hate to break it to you. If I'm not mistaken, I think that, Nelson Mandela is no longer with us and hasn't
yeah,
been with us for a very long
well,
time.
free him from something. I'm
Maybe
not sure.
maybe there was a hidden, message
Yeah,
there, I don't really know what it is, but
yeah.
what you said, Professor, reminds me that once I was in an interview many years ago, and somebody wanted, they had a position and they were looking for, like, a number 2 to, work for them. In this it was a corporate situation. I went to the interview, and in the interview, I could tell that I was really doing pretty decently. I knew everything that was being discussed. I felt like I all my answers were good. I was on top of my game. And then at some point, the person asked me that was interviewing me, said, "But why do you want to work here?" I said, "Well, it looks like a great company, and you start here. There's always room for growth." And then the person said to me, "Well, there wouldn't be room for growth because only room for growth is my job." So I said, You know what? I don't need to grow. It's fine. It's good. I'll take whatever you have. It's fine." Never got the job. I actually didn't switch. I flip flopped. I said, "I don't need to grow.
That's
Grow
okay.
me? I don't want to grow at
Grow
all. I want to become smaller here."
growth mindset. You can take that and shove it. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, man.
Somebody is saying
That's
that
funny.
Nelson Mandela has achieved the ultimate freedom.
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
you could look at it that way. Oh, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this, but what do we care? It's New Year's Eve, and because somebody mentioned Nelson
anytime
Man
you say that, I'm just gonna keep egging you on. That's what
so what happened was years ago, I think this was already maybe 7, 8 when was it that Nelson Mandela died? It has to be at least, like, 8 years ago?
it's been a bit, yeah.
8, 7, 9, it's something.
2013. Yeah, 2013, so 10 over
Oh,
11 years.
10 years even. So, I was at a bar, when it was announced that he had passed away. I was at a bar with some people, and it was like a very rowdy bar. I was actually traveling. I wasn't even in the US at the moment. So at that time, it was like late at a bar, like at night, and it's like a party, like people, and I had some friends there, and we're all drinking. And then somebody's like, "Hey, I don't want to bum you all out, but like Nelson Mandela just passed away." Everybody for like about 10 seconds, like, holding their beer, were like, "Oh, that's very serious." And and after about 10 seconds, the party resumed. I mean, in those 10 seconds, I think people were very respectful and said some kind things, but that party was very difficult to stop at that point in the evening, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's
No, but it
remember.
was the part that was amusing is that people wanted to do the right thing. They're all like, "Whoa, well, good old Nelson," you know what I mean? Like, people wanted to like be very super respectful, but it was just the forum was problematic.
Yeah. It's like,
So
"Let's have a moment of silence."
at a moment, it's like a bar. There's like tons of music, like blasting. Everybody's like drunk, and like everybody stops for like 10 seconds. Like good old Nelson. I have no other way to describe it, and somehow I'll always remember it. You know, at least it's memorable.
That's funny. Yeah, yeah, I remember when Nelson Mandela was freed from prison because I was trying to watch Saturday morning cartoons, and those bastards kept cutting in while I was trying
Oh,
to
that's
watch Saturday
terrible.
morning cartoons. That was so unfair.
You know what? First of all, Phantom Monk says then the Mandela effect kicked in. It
Kicked in.
certainly did. Uh, but you know what? I remember that sometimes that's something that you don't play with kids that way. Like, if I was watching Saturday morning cartoons and somebody would put some crappy, "We interrupt this regular program to let, President Reagan speak," or whatever it is, it's like, "Dude, I don't have anything against he actually was a good president. Don't have anything against him. I can't listen to him now. Not when I'm about to watch, like, Garfield and Friends or something." They can't interrupt me while mother
Yeah,
you understand what I'm
like,
saying. There will be such cool things on Saturday morning. I mean, I I am ashamed to say that I watch the Smurfs. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I
oh,
actually do.
I watch the Smurfs, but yeah, you don't want President Reagan cutting in while you're trying to find out how Garfield is gonna torture
Yeah,
Nermal
and
and,
later it was Bush or whatever it is, and I
yeah.
guess later even Clinton. But I mean, I'm just saying that I don't want to hear anything. There's no child in the world that at like 10 a.m. wants to hear anything. Like they don't know. Nobody cares about
Are
this.
their parents watching it? No.
I mean,
But of course, that was before the days of 24-hour news stations too, so
right. I think that today they would just put like some streaming service where they put the kid like the show, they would put Bluey on for him or whatever it is, whereas the parent would then just look on his phone and see the updates or there's a way to do things differently. Back then, also households, maybe they had a few TVs in them. I'm trying to think.
yeah,
Uh
we had a couple.
I think that generally speaking, I had maybe two TVs. Like there would be a main one like in the living room, that's like the main TV. And then there would be, you know, a kid's room, if you want to call it, or something like that. There were a few kids that actually were sleeping there, and then there was like a TV in there, like a smaller and more cheapo one, but there would be one there. So yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is that at the time people just didn't have a lot of TVs, so that I guess they were hoping to get the parents and then let them have the speech of the president. But really, what's so important that the president has to talk on a Saturday morning?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, well, apparently learning that Nelson Mandela had been freed from prison, so
I see. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember like the freeing part. I don't remember as well. I mean, it happened at some point, I guess, but the part that he passed away that I remembered very well.
yeah.
The Smurfs. I don't know why I liked it as a kid. I mean, it was kind of silly, really, but I don't know. It kind of spoke to me, and
You watched the
you,
Smurfs, but did you watch the Snorks?
I watched the Snorks as well, which is like
Yes.
the Smurfs but in the water.
Yes.
I watched that too. Like I was such a sucker. Like they said there's the Smurfs I watched, and then said the Snorks. I watched that too. The Snorks had something, but you know what? The Smurfs were more memorable.
Yeah.
Uh, I struggle, like, with the Smurfs. I remember the characters, like, I really can envision now. With Snorks, I remember what they looked like and the general idea of it. Can't tell you that I have, like, that the characters within that show are really ingrained in my memory. Who was the main I can't even remember. I can't even remember their names.
Oh gosh, no, I couldn't either. Uh, no, not off the top of my head. I have to look it up. But yeah, I mean, I definitely remember watching it. That was, I remember watching the Snorks. I remember watching gosh, it's Saturday morning TV here. Yeah, yeah. With for the yeah, Empress and M was saying Gargamel was the bad guy for the
Oh, yeah, that, of course. Gargamel
Smurf.
and
Yeah,
Azrael, his cat, everybody
yeah.
remembers that.
Remember those?
Empress and M says, "The 27-inch was in the living room, a 13-inch in another room." I think that was a common setup.
Yeah, we
That's
had
exactly, in my youth, what I had.
Yeah, as a when I was younger, our biggest TV was like a 17 or a 19-inch or something. But yeah, then we had a couple of old black and whites and a small.
Yeah, 27-inch maybe. I wanna say that initially I didn't have a 27-inch, but the 13-inch sounds familiar. That could have been
Yeah.
in that's more reasonable. At some point, I think in our house, then there was like a point of time that I think we had 3 TVs at some point, but one of them was like an old black and white one that was super small.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had
Uh,
those. I had that
Embarrassing,
little
but yeah.
black and white in my room for years as a kid, and, honestly, I credit that little black and white TV for my love of sci-fi and old monster movies and stuff like that. Because when I was a kid, because I had that TV, sometimes I would often fiddle, on a boring Saturday afternoon or whatever, and I had nothing to do, I'd fiddle around with it, trying to see what stations I could get. One of the few stations I could get was a local non-affiliated. It was like a Dumont or Fox or something like that. And and they would often they would do their Saturday afternoon matinees or whatever, showing older movies that they could get. And yeah, on UHF. Yeah. And so that's where I really got my love of like old sci-fi and monster movies and stuff like that, was from watching what I could pick up on a Saturday afternoon with my little black and white TV and the aerials.
You know what? When I was a kid and there was, let's say, you just had access to that black and white TV, I wouldn't sit around and think, "Oh, why isn't there color?" I'd just be happy that I could watch anything. So if it was black and white and that's what I could watch at that moment, I totally accept it. I think that the first time I saw Star Trek, I was really young, and it was on a small black and white TV. Because at that point, I think the second TV was a small black and white one, and that was my first encounter watching Star Trek, like the original series. And until today, I remember it. It's a very early memory of mine. So I don't have anything bad to say with the black and white. It has its own charm.
Oh yeah, yeah. We used to. I mean, that was most of the time when I played my old Atari when I was a kid. That was on the black and white TV because that's what I had. That's what I had access to most of the time. I didn't get to use the big TV for that. So
You want to
yeah,
hear something really weird?
yeah.
This is going to be even more embarrassing. I think that as a kid, there were certain things like movies that I would play them and record them like with the proper kind of RCA cable into a tape recorder. I'd record the movie on a cassette and then I could listen to the movie. I mean, today you have a
Oh
phone and you can watch something on your phone, but at that
yeah,
time that didn't exist. So maybe you had like a Walkman or something like that. And if on my Walkman I can have the movie, even if I don't see the images, it was kind of like audiobooks. I made myself an
yeah.
audiobook.
Absolutely. I did the exact same thing. Later on, when I was a little bit older, I started doing it with Star Trek episodes, and I would just listen to the audio of the
I'm
of the
so
Star
glad
Trek
I'm not
episodes.
alone because
Nope. Yeah.
I thought about it while I was telling you and I said this is super strange and it feels like only a madman would do this. And then you said
No.
you did it. So
Well,
I'm not alone
honestly,
anymore.
you know, uh, um, I mean, you're a kind of a fan of Doctor Who, right? You Some of you watched some of the old Doctor Who?
I've watched every episode of Doctor Who to
Oh,
date,
okay.
except for, like, somehow, uh, I think Flux with Jodie, I was kind of not
Oh
really
god.
focusing except for the
Yeah,
last
no.
one because they said she would leave, and Gatwa I started, but
Oh,
man,
no.
is it tough to watch that.
I suffered through the first couple episodes of Shooty, and then I I watched Disparu to watch the rest of them. I watched along with Disparu and his reviews of them, but, which
I
I
just wanna
also
quickly before you go on, I wanna say
yeah,
that Empress and M says that she did that,
yeah,
what we were saying.
yeah,
So does Phantomux says that we're nerds, and he did it too,
yeah,
uh, for mixtapes.
yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 3 says that he did that as well, and Marks for 7. I guess that's why we all hang out here in the middle of the night together, because that's the type of people we were, that we would record, and,
Yeah. Mark's
you know what?
47 recorded the A-Team like that. That's great.
I mean, I would basically, I remember really enjoying having Back to the Future in audio
Yeah,
format because I like the movie so much. But go
yeah.
on, sorry, I cut you off.
Well,
What were
no,
you
what it
saying?
was so what I was gonna say was that, there's quite a few episodes, in the earlier years that are lost. They're gone, because they
Yep,
recorded back over the tapes. But there's a number of them that they've been able to recover in recent years and reconstruct. And the reason is that people recorded the audio of the shows for themselves. They
right.
recorded the audio, and so they've found people who in their collections have recordings of the audio from the broadcast, and so if they've got the audio, then they can just animate a reconstruction of the episode, and often that's informed by, they had, publicity people who would take photos of the screens as a record of people that were, like, part of their agencies and stuff. Like, say, "Oh, look, see, this person appeared in that episode." So they would take pictures, and then there were also pictures from the sets, and so they know from that what sort of the costuming and stuff look like from those missing and lost episodes. So, yeah, I mean, that was they were doing that back with Doctor Who in the '60s and and early '70s, just recording episodes, just recording the audio so they could enjoy it later.
Yeah, I mean, what happened with it, um, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating what happened with Doctor Who, that the BBC were so cheap that rather than
Yep,
buying new tapes, like videotapes, they said, "Well, we already aired it. Why don't we just delete it?"
yep.
Man, that hurts that somebody would even
It's
have, and people tell
yeah,
me, "You don't understand, things were different then." I don't
yeah.
care how they were. If somebody spent money and time and actors recorded this episode, for you to say, "Ah, we already aired it once. Why don't we delete it?" That makes me sick just thinking about it. You have to be
Oh,
so cheap
yeah.
and annoying
Oh,
to do
jeez.
that.
Yeah, that's I mean, but yeah, that was that was how it was, and it's wild to think that, "Oh, yeah, we're just gonna air it this once, and then we're never gonna we're never gonna air it again. We don't need to keep any record of it being aired, whatever."
No, I mean, what they did, I mean,
Yeah.
it's worse though. I mean, first what they did was is they said, "Well, maybe we'll sell it to other countries." So sometimes they'd send samples of
Yeah.
episodes of a
Yeah.
series of, like, a story to, like, different countries. That's how some of these were recovered, that they
Yes.
sent stuff to, like, Nigeria and all these weird
Yeah.
places.
Well, but they didn't send tape. They had to because of the way things aired over there, they didn't have, like, compatible tape systems, so they had to put it on film. So, yeah, there's a handful of those that have been recovered from, like yeah, like you said, like Nigeria or Uganda or something like that, that where they've gotten the film. So it's in, like, pristine condition. It hasn't even, like, broken down because the magnetic tapes got old.
Right.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, so it's kind of disappointing that they did that. Because of those Nigeria and different places, there was a guy that was able to recover some of these over the years. Different efforts were made to recover. There's also a rumor that there's a bunch of episodes that there's these kind of Russian oligarch collectors that have them. This is always a rumor that I hear. I don't know why they would hold on to it, but I guess they're just happy that they have this Doctor Who and nobody else has it. I think that in some cases, maybe the BBC could have negotiated for money, but they didn't want to. Really, really sad that there's full stories, classic episodes that we'll never
Yep.
see
Yep.
because of a bunch of jerks and because the BBC were stupid.
Yep. Well, and I mean, there's a bunch of other things too. I mean, there's a whole bunch of silent film that is just gone. It will never be seen again because of the film stock that it was produced on just deteriorated. Just it's just gone. It can't be recovered. It wasn't saved. It wasn't archived in a way that you could watch it. Yeah, there's a bunch of that stuff. Void King says, yeah, same thing. Some 1920s films. Yeah, same. Yeah, the same thing. Yeah, there's a bunch of films, silent and some of the early talkies that just disappeared forever because they put them on stock that deteriorated, and you're never getting it back. Yeah. Uh,
That's really
yeah,
sad to think that people worked hard on something and then there's just no documentation of it.
it really is. It's really kind of sad. And on that downer, what else we got to talk about? We said we might talk about some stuff that throughout the year. Some,
I mean, we know the 2024. We kind of know a lot of things that happened this year.
yeah,
There was the election. There was the fact
yep,
that I think that we got a lot of these kind of, for lack of a better word, very woke movies and
yep,
shows and things. But they're starting, at least towards the end, and maybe with that election, starting to be a feeling that maybe the pendulum is starting to swing back.
absolutely, yes. There's a lot of people are starting to feel a little bit of relief, little bit of even release potentially that now maybe some of this the crazier identity politics, woke, whatever you want to call it, stuff is finally starting to disappear. It's finally starting to yeah, like you said, the pendulum swing back the other way. We got AOC taking pronouns out of her bio on X. Like, what's that all about? Well, what's it about? It's about her recognizing that that train has sailed and it's not popular anymore. It's
She
it's
tried to
it's
excuse it. She's like, "Oh, I
yeah.
didn't realize that they vanished." It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, I
here's
mean,
what you
you're so
changed it.
calculated with your stupid social media. I doubt that she didn't realize that they vanished, but yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
No.
it was an annoying trend, and we knew from day one. We're exactly in the group of people that said from day one that this thing is crap, and we
Yep.
never let go. And it was just Hollywood with all their delusions and the people that believed in these ideologies, but I think that we were always pretty solid when it came to our positions on it,
Yep. It was always kind of unsustainable. It was anti-reality in a lot of ways.
for sure.
And
I mean,
when it
it's not that it's gone completely, but I feel
no.
like people are waking up. I
Yes.
just want to also call out Tim Hayes, Happy New Year, and we have Ercole De Stefano. Happy New Year to you too. I think Argentum showed up and was
Yeah.
like, "Happy New Year, I'm late" or something like that. So Happy
Yes.
New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Barbara
My
Lawrence,
internet
Happy New
little
Year.
sister. Happy New Year.
Loyosh, Happy New Year to you. He said, painting, but cave paintings are forever. That's true. So, and Marks for 7, Happy New Year. Hopefully, I wished everybody that's hanging
Yeah.
out with us a Happy New Year. And Loyosh says, quick point Star Wars on the Grand Canyon. What? I don't know what that means.
Quick, paint Star Wars
Oh,
on the
quick
Grand
paint Star Wars on the
on the
Grand
Grand Canyon.
Canyon.
Okay.
Okay.
But well, he's saying he said before that cave paintings are forever.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, I
so
got you. Now
where the
now
we have all these movies and TV shows that have disappeared into the past. They've been lost because they've degraded or been erased or whatever. So
with
yeah,
our luck,
that's
The
Star
Last
Wars now.
Jedi, like, will be, like, in pristine condition forever.
Someone's gonna put that on some sort of crystal and launch it into
Right, a
space
1,000
so
years
that
from now, it'll all
yeah,
be gone, and somebody will be
yeah.
like, "Let's look at what this culture had it like, what they
Oh,
did," and then they'll play this stupid movie.
yeah. Oh
Ugh.
gosh. What a
But,
movie.
yeah, I mean, it's looking I say this with caution, but I'm hoping that 2025 is a year where things start looking up again, especially in entertainment. I know people are looking also at things that are happening when it comes to the economy and there's a new president and all this other stuff. And
Mhm,
obviously, I hope that everything will be okay. But I think that what's really suffered over the past several years is entertainment. And the reason why I've been so vocal all these years about it is that, and I'm happy because I knew from day one that there was something wrong with what was going on. I didn't need to wait 70 years like all those other people did. I think that I was one of the early people that said this is wrong, whatever is happening, because entertainment should be unifying people. It should be things that people do together. They sit and they watch a movie, they unite over something, and taking all these IPs and these fan favorite things and ruining them the way they did, they ruined something that was really great. And I don't know if some of these things will never recover. I don't think some things you'll never be able to put back together, but I'm hoping that there will at least be people somewhere that'll start thinking, how do we make entertainment that brings people together,
Yeah.
that everybody can enjoy?
Yeah, there's some things that may have been ruined permanently, or we're gonna have to have at least a decade of them just not doing anything
Yeah,
so that they can recover.
Star Wars really difficult, really
Yeah.
difficult. We've said this before, and we'll say it again because somebody mentioned Star Wars. The only thing you could do with Star Wars is that you jump forward in time. You know, you say, okay, this is hundreds of years after Return of the Jedi. Now it's a whole new, it's something else. Characters we've never heard of, things we've never seen, and just maybe somebody discovers the power of the force, who knows what. And you do it also not like with all these like little girls that are now like barking orders at people and doing the thing. You have like real Jedi Knights. I'm not saying that a woman can't be powerful or even have the force or things like that. I'm just saying that the way that Kennedy has done it with her stupid agenda and inexperienced activists, not like that. You know what I mean? Something in the future where there could be maybe women that do stuff there, Jedi stuff. But I'm saying like there has to be men that are serious and serious about being Jedi Knights and heroes, good and bad. I despise the fact that they made it so like good and bad is nothing. Now like the lines are blurred.
Oh, yeah.
They taught this to
That's
a
one of the
whole
worst things they did
and
in
they
with
taught it
Star
to a
Wars.
whole generation, and they did it across any property they could find. They did it all over the place. They have brainwashed, and that's something that's irreversible. You can't repair that. When we saw, these elections, and that some of those people that like had meltdowns and all these kind of strange people, sometimes with like 70 pronouns and all that stuff.
Yep.
Uh, you look at them, and they grew up watching this stuff, and you
Mhm.
think that it doesn't matter, but it does matter.
Yeah, I was looking at I was actually looking, there's a whole bunch of retrospective type stuff that you see, during during the end of the year, around New Year's, and thinking about all the things that happened. And so one just happened to be one thing I was looking at was talking about some of the craziest things that they had seen this year. And one person was actually mentioning somebody that on TikTok had gone on to discuss how they change their pronouns throughout the day. And so they wear different bracelets and necklaces to tell people which pronouns they're supposed to use at different times during the day, because they change how they feel, and they change how, because they're gender fluid. So they change how they feel during the day, so that you have to know, given any moment, how they feel, which pronouns to use, so that you can protect their tender feelings from the dreadful insult that is being misgendered. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
madness. Just madness.
I
Like,
understand, and yeah, I mean, they've their goal was to take and corrupt like a whole generation of kids. And I feel like, I almost feel like an old
they
weirdo
did.
saying that, but it's the truth. It's not just something that I'm thinking, in our day and age, like when we were growing up, you'd have some older people and like, oh no, these kids are watching this show. It's so naughty. It's so violent. It's so this, it's so that. But that wasn't the issues that we have now. Now it's like these kids are watching stuff that's like dumb and stupid. And there's something they're like mentally ill now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not in my imagination. It's not like the old man yelling at the clouds or whatever it is. Like, they are delusional.
Yeah. It's wild. Just whew. Yeah. It's hard to even imagine that level of mental illness. But we've got a Rumble rant.
Oh, wow. Where do you see
Yeah.
it?
Kivo
Oh, okay.
1961.
I see it, and I'm gonna
There we go.
Family Guy Star Wars will always be a classic.
You know,
True.
I I found my Blu-rays of that. I've been digging around. I'm kind of working on cataloging a lot of my stuff. I'm actually going to be getting putting a whole bunch of it, ripping a whole bunch of it, and putting it on my Plex server. So it's just easier to get at. It's not like not having Blu-rays is a good thing. But I found those and I was like, oh my god, my son would love to see these. We should sit down and watch these. We should sit down and watch these videos. But yeah, it's you know it's extremely funny, and of course, it also doesn't reference any of the prequels. It doesn't reference any of the stuff in the sequels, so that's much better. Although, well, there were some prequel references in there, but yeah, the the Family Guy Star Wars is an absolute classic. So, yeah, it's this whole gender confusion stuff that's going on. I really feel like that's something that is really, I think, rapidly going to improve over the next couple of years, next 4 or 5 years. I think a lot of people have, uh, finally recognized just how unhinged, just how impossible it is to actually live in a world like that and live with people who act like that, and that it's not people who are living their authentic lives, quote unquote. It's people who are unhealthy. They're mentally not all there, and they're seeking this is attention seeking behavior. It's not actual it's not actually
Wait a
improving their
second. I
world.
see Tom Connors here. What the fuck did you guys do to my channel? I hope your
What?
channel didn't get in trouble. There was a very interesting stream we did there.
Oh no. Interesting, is it?
It was an
Mm,
interesting stream. I don't know if you
uh
caught it today.
I did not. I've been pretty busy with the family doing a variety of different things around the house. So, uh, Empress and him says we got it drunk on champagne and felt it up in a dark corner. Well, that'll happen at New Year's Eve parties. Hey, Tom, if you want to come on and ruin this channel, go right ahead. Price will send you an invite.
Yeah, I just sent him an invite, but yeah, it's up to you. I know he was napping. I don't know if he's not napping now.
No, that's funny. No.
Basically, Mexican Iron Man.
Oh no.
He was given access at some point to Tom's account, so he just went and did a stream,
Oh no.
and I saw he was doing a stream, so I joined him. And man, I think that the
Oh.
conversation went. Some people say that the conversation we had went off the rails. I think it was rather interesting.
Oh my god.
I'm not sure Tom thought it was interesting, but
I
you know,
love Mike. I definitely need to stream with him at some point. I love him so much. He's hilarious. Uh, yeah. I'll have to go back and check that out. Um, let's see. What else? Well, I mean, we were talking about kind of looking back at some stuff through the year. Let's what do you think? How about we look at the box office this year? Let's talk about some movies from the box office this year and what we think
well, there
about
were
them.
there were some big flops. I mean, I think that the
Yeah.
year started off with Madam Web. Madam Web still people forget because there have been other stinkers, but really hard to top Madam Web. Madam Web is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's really really hard. There were other bad ones. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm trying to think who said this. My friend Erwin from Nerd Wars, he said something like, "Oh, Craven was bad like Madam Web." No, Craven was bad. Madam Web was worse. Madam Web was worse than everything. Probably worse than Morbius too. It was so bad.
Hmm.
Like Craven the Hunter, there was something in there. Even though I think it's ill-advised to even do a movie like that with a villain of Spider-Man, but if you overcome that and just think, could we have made some kind of movie that's interesting? There was something that could have been done there. There was potential to do something with Craven. If you let me do it, I would have made a movie that's at least watchable. You may not have thought to yourself it's the best movie you've ever seen. It would have been maybe a dumb, fun action superhero movie. That's just kind of serviceable enough. There was something to be done with it. Man, did they mess up. But as much as they messed up, at least there were a few scenes. Did you see Craven the Hunter?
I did not see Craven, no. No.
Craven the Hunter, there were a few scenes in it where there's actually some action with Aaron Taylor Johnson, and you think to yourself, you know what? If this movie was, instead of just having maybe 10 or 15 minutes of that action, if the whole movie was more action packed and more based just on, vigilante justice or whatever it is, there was a movie to be made that you would at least enjoy for whatever it is. Kind of like Venom isn't a great movie, but it's sort of a dumb, fun movie. I think that there was a way to enjoy Craven the Hunter had they had a similar approach of, let's just do something full of action, that there's all this stuff happening and maybe people will enjoy it. Instead, they got it so wrong, man. There's like this 30 minutes that you see him as a teenager. That in and of itself, and it's like the first 30 minutes. You know how they gave the first 8 minutes of Hunter away for free?
Mhm. Is that the only part worth watching?
Uh, yes, I mean no, it's even worse than that. What happened is that I suspect this. Nobody's ever talked about this, but I'm going to tell everybody. Initially, I think that the movie started off with him as a teenager, and about after half an hour, I think that then they had that scene where he breaks into the prison, and then the movie continues from there. How do I know this? Because right now, the first 8 minutes were like this action packed thing. Then you have the 30 minutes of snooze, and then it jumps to present day, and it's right after the scene in the prison. Do you get
Huh.
what I'm trying to say? I almost feel like they said, "Okay, let's do a Tarantino here. Let's take this scene that looks kind of cool, and we'll start the movie off with it, and then we'll tell people, look, you got to watch the first 8 minutes, and then you look at the first 8 minutes, it's more action-packed, and you think, oh, maybe this movie has some action in it." They were just trying to fool people in any way they can.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, man.
but at the end of the day, the action just there wasn't enough of it. Poor Aaron Taylor Johnson. The guy looked like he went to the gym. People said he goes to the gym anyways. That guy looked like he got into even better shape. He looked like he was totally game
Yeah.
to do some kind of action thing. He was fully in shape. There was nothing wrong. I mean, I don't think he knew what he was doing there. And I think that he was, nobody gave him good directing or anything. But his acting and his action stuff, that's not what ruined this movie. It was pretty much everything else. And, they just why do they even hire Russell Crowe? They, like, completely wasted him in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, just looking through movies for to see what the maybe the worst thing I saw this year. It would have to be. I mean, I don't get to see as many movies as you do, but I think it might be Rebel Moon Part 2. Might be the worst thing I saw all year. That was awful.
You know what? I basically said that, I think that, Rebel Moon it's movies that I should have hated. They were stupid. There was something guilty pleasure about them that I saw them and they amused me, and I don't know why. If I
Yeah.
watch a movie and I'm sitting there laughing the whole time and kind of amused, even if that wasn't the intention, I categorize them as guilty pleasure,
Yeah.
uh, that I somehow didn't fully not enjoy, even though I knew they were bad movies. So it's a weird mixed feelings that I have with those two. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I mean, in Madam Web, there were a few minutes that I laughed, but there were moments that were just like dead. You know, I don't know. I mean, Rebel Moon is still more competently made than Madam Web.
Yeah.
Rebel Moon is just like you could tell all the overindulgence of Snyder and all of his crap and slow motion and stupid ideas and whatever, but at least like there's some guy with a vision of what he wanted to do. He's just kind of a weirdo and like it's kind of silly and just he's goofy and this movie is kind of goofy and dumb. Madam Web isn't even a movie. I don't know what to tell you about Madam Web. That's something that you can't explain to me how for $200 million they made that movie.
Yeah.
Has to be like a uh, money laundering scheme.
Yeah. I was yeah, I think maybe the other thing again, I don't get to see nearly as many movies as you do. I would say the other one that sticks out for me as being something just terrible was Argyle. What a complete, like, just just screwing over the audience that was interested in seeing it.
I haven't even watched Argyle. The thing
Oh,
is,
jeez.
you know why I didn't watch it? Because I knew from the second I saw that stupid trailer that it would be crappy. I knew the whole time I knew there was something stinky about that movie, and it ended up that I was 100% correct.
Yeah. Oh,
I
man.
knew
Well,
it.
if you don't watch any of it, watch the last few minutes, which it just absolutely absurd. There is a gunfight, which, of course, I mean, you know the whole story, right? You've got it's a Matthew Vaughn thing,
Yeah, yeah, I know the general idea of the story.
Bryce Dallas Howard, and she writes novels and whatever about being a spy and whatever. And then it turns out, oh, she's writing novels about this super agent, whatever. And it turns out it's her. She had her memory wiped or whatever. I don't even remember most of it. It was so bad. Uh, she had her memory wiped, so she's actually the super agent. So then she remembers being a super agent, and then goes on killing sprees in these huge fights. And then there's a fight at the end of this. Swear to you, there is a room that gets filled with there's oil all over the floor. She puts knives on the bottom of her shoes and then skates around like they're ice skates, shooting people.
That sounds
It's
ridiculous. I feel like Tom wanted to join us, but then he did
he's
something weird,
he's
and now it
trying
has a
to, and it's something's not
says, like,
working. Guess
lock.
we'll see.
He locked himself out.
Gotta unlock your phone.
I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to fix my image.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Well,
Can't
now
get it to
you're
work.
kind of a gray area.
Yeah, I know. What the fuck? What's going on?
Well, let's see. What about some good stuff? Let's see. What was the top of the box office this year? Number one domestic box office year was Inside Out 2. Did you see that one, Price?
I didn't see it.
No?
I
Okay.
admit I don't know. I
Yeah.
remember vaguely a long time ago seeing Inside Out 1, and I feel like I never felt like I needed to see Inside Out 2. If somebody enjoyed it, I'm happy for them. I'm not discounting that. What else did well at the box office that wasn't that?
Let's see. Oh, my daughter's watched Inside Out 2. She's very fond of it. I saw part of it with her. I thought it was fine. Nothing offensive in there. And of course we've understood that potentially that there was some woke stuff. There was some identity politics stuff that was part of that film, and Disney said, get it out. Get it out of the movie. Don't make the main character gay. Don't make her attracted to a girl, whatever. Number two, domestic box office was Deadpool and Wolverine. So
It's
that one
so
did
strange.
extremely well.
Deadpool and Wolverine, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's so strange that it took them so long to come to the conclusion that they don't need to shove that in. And even then, they're doing it like they're suffering. They're miserable that they have to remove that because their dream was to put that in it. That the fact that they have to do that now, they're sitting around. Bob Iger is probably sitting around miserable now. Couldn't
Mhm.
shove his stupid propaganda in there.
Deadpool and Wolverine was enjoyable. That was one I did get to go see in the theaters this year. It was fun.
It wasn't.
It was
Listen,
not
it wasn't a spectacular movie. It
No.
was fun. It was fun, and I thought that like it did whatever it was supposed to do. But I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't as good as the previous two Deadpool movies, and it's the type of movie that it's fun in that moment when you watch it, but there isn't a ton of like more substance or value to it as much as it's a movie of the moment.
I don't know. I disagree. I've seen it like 3-4 times. I think it's much better, and some people are giving it credit for.
Still think the previous, I don't know, Deadpool 1 was much better in my opinion.
Oh,
Hated Deadpool 2.
really? Deadpool 2. The second one.
Deadpool
Yes.
2,
Yeah.
I have mixed
Yes.
feelings about
Hate
Deadpool 2. Mixed feelings about it. I would think there were certain things I maybe liked more about Deadpool 2 than Deadpool versus Wolverine, but maybe things that I liked about Deadpool and Wolverine that Deadpool 2 didn't have. Deadpool 1 is the superior movie to both of them, in my opinion.
I think it's a much more clever film in how it uses the idea of the movies being their own universe, how it's kind of a love letter to the Fox films.
Mhm.
Just
By the way, for those who
it does
don't
have
know,
issues, don't get me wrong, but
for those who don't know, the gray square is Tom Connors from
I
Midnight.
tried to fix it. I cannot get nothing to work here. I don't know.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't know what's going on here.
I just wanted to let people know because they probably wouldn't be able to. But that's
Yeah.
part of the benefits of watching Price of Reason. Here at
I
Price
can't
of
get
Reason
nothing to come up
Studios, we
on there.
invest a lot in the technology.
I can't even figure out how to put a picture on. So I try getting my OBS thing working and it won't work.
Let me see
I don't know what's going on.
if I can. Oh, not that.
It don't matter. No, I meant on my
Vex
gray
is-
screen
Vex
here.
is just popping in.
But that's the thing I don't like about this Rumble Studio is unless you're on camera or you have a virtual camera on, if you
Yeah, it
turn the
doesn't
camera
have a-
off, you disappear.
Yeah.
It does
don't
its own thing. That's
Yeah.
true.
I just mainly stopped by to say Happy New Year. I'm spending my
Happy
New Year with you
Year.
guys.
Whoa.
Yeah, I took a nap
Scribe
and
visiting us there.
Yeah, I don't know how Scribelight arrived here.
Yeah.
There must be a picture of Tom somewhere, but
Buried
anyhow,
deep in the Price of Reason archives in OBS.
I do have one somewhere of him.
Yep.
it's not that big of a deal to
No.
me. I just
Yeah, it's fine.
Oh, here. Well, this is
oh.
something.
yeah, but like you can't even see it because I mean, if I do this though, can you guys still even hear me?
Yeah. We can still hear you. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll do that then, I guess.
Yeah, we can still hear you. So yeah, I really enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. Yes, it was a nostalgia trip, and yes, it was packed full of member berries, but I think that's fine. It was fun. It was enjoyable. It was some escapism.
I love how they kind of, I don't know if they did it nonchalantly or if they did it underhandedly or what, but like I was trying to point out to people because a lot of people are like saying, oh, it's just this throwaway popcorn, turn your brain off movie. I'm like, no, you should actually turn your brain up because this movie, if you think about it in a roundabout way, Disney is the enemy. They're the ones who are destroying all this shit. Why does this wasteland exist? It's because they bought Fox and they decided they were going to destroy all these franchises. And that's why this thing even exists in the first place. So I'm like, in a clever roundabout way, the whole movie is basically telling you that, yes, Disney was the enemy for buying Fox to begin with. And that's why all this shit is dying. And yeah, to me, it was kind of a real meta, clever kind of plot line that I don't know if you'll ever be able to pull off again. And to me, it almost is a satire, tongue in cheek to the multiverse shit, right? It's almost poking fun at it at the same time and showing you how fucking stupid it really is, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Like, how dumb can we make it? Well, let's just introduce, several hundred different Deadpools.
Yeah.
All running around at the same time. How stupid can we make it? Well, let's make one of the Deadpools, just really handsome and sexy, but he has no powers and it gets killed instantly. Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed some of the little twists that they had in there too, with bringing in the different characters from Marvel.
Does it say the same things about Wolverine that the last Wolverine movie did? Yes.
Yes.
It doesn't do anything like as far as what it does. It's not about Wolverine though. It's a Deadpool movie, right? The whole movie's about Deadpool learning how to be a hero. And and I liked it. I like it. Does it have some plot holes and plot problems? Yes, some here and there, especially in the intro. Like him, how is he hopping between worlds? They don't explain that, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, I just kind of put it in my brain that him fucking with the time variance thing kind of set him in some different universe without him realizing. But that's still me kind of just adding shit that isn't really in the movie.
I think they didn't really explain it, but I assumed that it was he was using because in the wrap up at the end of the second movie, he's using that time travel device that he got from Cable.
But it doesn't
that's the part that doesn't make sense. They don't explain that can help him.
And I had a theory. I was like, I had a theory that yes, it was a time travel thing first, but then as soon as Disney bought Fox, it automatically became both a time travel and a
Yeah.
dimension leaping thing. They should have explained that in the
Yeah.
film.
And I suppose that since it's a Deadpool movie, I don't really take too much of it very seriously. So you can get away with a lot, but
Or
I
they could have made
enjoyed
it
it.
part
It
of
was
his
a lot of
mutant powers because him being able
yeah.
to break the fourth wall is part of his powers, and maybe he could have been like, "Oh, well, since he can do that in a way, he could have explained that to the audience that he was able to use this contraption to not only go through time, but go to different dimensions or something like that." You know what I mean? Just anything little like that as a throwaway line just to
Yeah.
explain.
Yeah. So yeah, that was number 2 in the uh, domestic box office this year. Number 3 was Wicked. We know what Price thinks about Wicked.
It was terrible, Wicked. But now my thing has disappeared. I
Now
can't
it's
find
gone
myself
forever.
anymore. What am I gonna do?
Oh no. Oh, there he is. He's
So
floated
much.
back. He has no mouth and he must
Oh no, I've
scream.
done
Oh
everything
no.
wrong.
Uh, so yeah, I did not bother seeing Wicked. I've never been interested in Wicked. I was not interested in it from the introduction of the book all the way into the making of the musical and whatnot. No interest whatsoever in Wicked at all. What did you think, Tom?
I think
Tom,
Price needs to quit worrying about my picture.
no, here I fixed it. It's all gonna be fine now.
Wicked, yeah, I have a really like Price is somebody who kind of knows where I'm coming from on this because for some reason over the past, and maybe it's because of Wicked, in the past few decades, it's become like this thing, this stigma that somehow Wizard of Oz is only for girls and gay people.
Sure. Yeah. Yep.
And
Well, you got the Friends of Dorothy partly to
no, and I
thank
get
for
it. I
that.
get it. Don't get me wrong, but Price was one of the few people who got me when I was trying to explain to people that look, a whole bunch of generations grew up where every Thanksgiving that movie was on television and it
Sure.
was an event.
Absolutely.
It was a fun movie for the family, and
Yeah.
somehow it was hijacked. I know I'm gonna sound like a jerk now. Way before now, once that activist wrote the book, The Wicked One, and then it was brought to Broadway, and they made that whole stupid thing that they did with it, which was always woke, even before the word woke was invented, they basically hijacked the IP. They hijacked it then, and it gradually happened where people already knew of that stupid play, but at least it was a play and it wasn't a movie. The second this movie came out, and they tried to sort of pass it off to audiences, especially normies, as a legitimate prequel to Wizard of Oz, they went and took the final dump on the IP, which was once like a family-friendly entertainment thing.
Yeah, and I'm not
Absolutely.
somebody who has problems with also rans or satire or reimaginings or revisionings. Like, look, we've had how many different Robin Hoods, we've had how many different Draculas. I don't have an issue with those things. We've had a lot of different takes on the Wizard of Oz as well, for that matter. The Wiz is an amazing fucking film. I don't give
It
a
is.
shit what anybody
Yeah.
says. I mean, but that being said, they're not really bringing anything new to the table here that hadn't already been done. And Price is 100% right that it wouldn't be so bad if they weren't trying to obfuscate and trick the general audience or the normies into thinking that this is somehow related to the original Wizard of Oz. And even with that, it doesn't matter. You still have to be well aware of what was going on in the original Wizard of Oz to understand this film or to make it make any sense. Right? So it still is, it's predicated upon and it's built upon that idea, and Price is 100% right because now there's a whole bunch of kids that this is going to be their exposure to Wizard of Oz. And we have so many people who still, I think, fundamentally just do not understand what the Wizard of Oz was even about. And it's not just because they didn't read the books. It's just that you have this little thing in your mind where you have the memory of the emotions of seeing Wizard of Oz. But I don't know if people carried that movie through their lives as much as older kids like we did. Like I have a feeling it must have stopped showing on TV so much at a certain point to where it just wasn't as
Yeah.
evergreen or as important to the zeitgeist. Because I've talked to so many people. It's like, what movie did you watch? Because they're like, the wizard is the bad guy. I'm like, when? I'm like, well, he lies to everybody. I'm like, I wouldn't say lies. He does follow through on every damn thing he says he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
He do some puffery? Yes. But everything he's been doing that got him to that point was to try and bring some stability to a place that was just utter chaos, that the witch had brought nothing but fucking terror to, the two witches, right? Like, that's kind of the whole point. And he even loses a war with the witch in the books, which is another reason why he kind of goes into exile. It's like this, there's a whole history that's built up in this books, and all of a sudden this kid from Kansas is just dropped into it, right? And she can't understand anything of what's going on, and that's kind of where the audience is brought into this idea. And Dorothy isn't even as big of a character in the grand scheme of things as she is in the presented in the movie.
Yeah.
Right. Like she comes in, and then there's like a book or two where she just disappears, and then she comes back again. And 'cause I'm vaguely remembering, because there's like 6 or 7 books. And then even Baum himself kind of started going off on just like fantasy, like it never has no real end to it. It's just it's a place where literally anything can happen. Like, it even says that in the book at one point. So like you when you don't have any rules, that's a problem. So what the original film has done has established a lot of the rules that the lore has been built upon, and that's the problem. And that's where Price and I are coming from. Is it doesn't matter. The original Wizard of Oz, now the movie itself, has replaced and usurped any books that came before it, any other prior and following Wizard of Oz films. And there's really only 2 technical ones that are actually attached to the Wizard of Oz legally, and that is the Oz the Great and Powerful, which was meant to be a trilogy that never finished, and the 1985 Return to Oz. Those are the only 2 technical movies that are actually attached to the movie. But now, answer me this, Price. Do they have is it the silver slippers in Wicked, or is it the ruby slippers? Because I think they paid for the rights to the ruby slippers, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought that they were silver. I don't remember
Are they?
seeing
Okay.
red. I don't remember seeing red slippers.
Now, in the play, they use the ruby slippers, but maybe they couldn't get away with it for the movie.
I thought that they were. I don't know that I saw the red slippers in the movie. Then
They might
again, the
not
movie
become
really
more
annoyed me. It
important
could have
later,
been
but
something
yeah.
that I blocked out. But what I didn't like, the part that really, really upset me in the movie, was when they went to Emerald City. That it really visually reminds me of there's a lot of visual cues from the 1939 whatever it is movie. Is it 1939? What's that movie from?
It's either 38 or 39 or something like that.
Whatever
Yeah.
that thing is, there's a lot of cues. Like Emerald City, there's hints that look similar. There's a yellow brick road. There's a lot of things that remind you of that movie, and it's done on purpose. They want you to understand that this is from the same universe. And then they arrive, and the Wizard of Oz, it turns out that he likes to abuse animals. And I don't know, man, that really, really annoyed me. The
Well, that
whole
bothered
thing,
me too when you said that. Yeah.
it's just like,
Oh, by the way, hey, Happy New Year to the Central Time Zone.
Oh shit! It
everybody.
is my New Year right now. Yep.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, man.
Hey.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Everyone's setting off fireworks out here in my neighborhood now, although they've been doing that all night.
That's the closest I got to fireworks on my thing right now.
That's all I got for you.
Oh, somebody swore.
So
No, but what's also funny about what you were saying, Price, is a lot of the terminology and the names and the things that we associate with Wizard of Oz, a lot of those originated with the 30s film, right? Because in the
Right.
book, it's not called the Yellow Brick Road. It is a road of yellow bricks. That's how it's said in the book. Like, the term Yellow Brick Road was coined in the movie. And a lot of those little things like that were coined in the movie.
Now, I don't know if they say, I don't know if they say Yellow Brick Road, but when you look at it, it really reminds you of the way the Yellow Brick Road looked in the 1939 movie.
Oh, I'm sure they got as close as they effing could.
And you have Glinda, with the bubble thing. There's just so many things that they really wanted you to think that this is tied to that one. And I showed you in the marketing that in the marketing for the movie, it's not like, hey, this is a fan fiction, like weirdo take that some
No. It's
activist
see where
wrote.
the story began or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like, every story has a beginning or something like that. And it's like, it really pisses me off. It's not the beginning of that story, but in the commercial, that's what they want you to think. They're very, very blunt about it.
And they ignore how horrible the witch is depicted in both the movie and the books. Right? In the book, she doesn't even give a shit. It's not even technically her sister, I think, in the book. There's 4 witches. There's the north, south, east, and west. And in the movie, they combine the north and the south. And that, in and of itself, it creates a plot hole. And it's the funniest thing about Wizard of Oz that everybody always points out. And that is that Glenda is the real villain, if you stop and step back and look at the movie. Because she literally sets Dorothy up to be killed. Because if you watch the movie, it's supposed to be a completely different witch in the book that gives her the shoes. And then she's traveling to see Glinda, and Glinda tells her to go see the Wizard of Oz. Now, in the movie, they cut out the middleman and just have Glinda play the part of both roles. But in that, they create this problem in that Glinda seals her fate by sealing the shoes to her, knowing full well the only way that the witch is going to get those damn things, which she wants more than anything in the world, is to kill her. Now, right? So it's her fucking fault.
Mhm.
And then she sends her off on a fucking brick road that she could have told her the whole time. Oh, by the way, if you just tap your heels together and say there's no place like home, you can go home. You don't have to go talk to the wizard. So like that, at the end of the day, what they end up doing is making the first film a stupid movie about bitches fighting over shoes. And that's the problem. And they're using it's true. If you think about it, it is.
Yeah.
It's very true,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because of that stupid move. And that stupid move is what created Wicked. And in that, they forget the idea of that whole idea was let's flip the tables and make everybody realize that it's not the way we think it is. It's the other way around. And in doing that, you have to whole cloth create this idea that the wizard is a bad person for some fucking reason. In the book, the animals talk. All of them talk. In fact, there's a joke at some point where somebody brings up that Toto has never said a word. And Toto just simply says, I have nothing to say. And that's it. Like, because it's a joke that once animals are in Oz, they can talk. Because anything can happen. So they've used that idea, and like it's that the wizard has manipulated them somehow into making them talk. Or some shit like that, Price is telling me. And I'm like, what the fuck is that all
They
about?
like tortured them, basically.
Okay,
Right?
the wizard, he's not a charlatan so much as he's a charade or he's a show, right? He showed up in Oz. He was just a tinkerer and all that kind of stuff and a magician. And they took that as wizardry. So he went and ran with it. The Emerald City is a joke. It's just glass. It's not really emerald. It's glass with lights. Like the whole thing it's a big fucking show for everybody to think that the wizard is this grand, powerful thing. And if anything, he was trying to do a good thing, and in the end, it's the story of how power corrupts no matter what, right? Eventually, you're going to be even if the wizard isn't necessarily a bad person with bad intentions, right?
Right.
But he ends up using Dorothy to kill the witch in the end of the day, but he still comes through with all his promises for her. Like that's the big difference.
Here, what happens is the way they explain it in the movie is that there's a goat who's their teacher at this stupid school, this sorcery school or whatever it is, and the goat he talks and he teaches them a lesson. But then one day, people come and they take him away, and they also I don't know if they put him in a cage. I think they put him in a cage and they do something so that he won't be able to talk or something like that. And then they want to do that to more animals. And the Wicked Witch, which here Elphaba, whatever they call her, she doesn't want that to happen. So she puts a spell on everybody that kind of freezes them. And then she grabs a goat and runs into the forest to save him because they want to hurt the goat. And she's the only good person that wants to save the goat. And then the reason
So
she
it's
wants
Silence of the Lambs?
something like that. And then she really wants to meet the wizard because she thinks that the wizard can help her solve this
It's her
problem
daddy. Spoilers.
with these I'm doing people a favor here. In any case, she runs to the forest and then she wants to meet the wizard. So the headmistress of the school, she tells the wizard how great the Wicked Witch is and how she has so many powers, and she's so impressed with her. So he wants to meet with her. Now, he doesn't actually want to meet with Glinda, but Glinda piggybacks on the meeting. They both go to Emerald City. It kind of reminds me a lot of visual cues from the original. And then they arrive there, and you know how in the original Wizard of Oz, there's that face that it's kind of like he's behind a curtain, and it's like, I am the Wizard of Oz, blah blah blah. They really go for that, maybe with modern technology and modern CGI, but really the same as you remember the same idea from the movie, how it's presented here. But then he comes out from behind the curtain, it's Jeff Goldblum, and then she's explaining to him that there's all this bad stuff happening with the animals. And I think, if I remember the order correctly, he tells her that if she wants to solve the problem, she should do this spell. So he gives her a book with a spell that she needs to do, and she does the spell. And it turns out that the spell actually took the monkeys, that there were a bunch of monkeys, and it made them the monkeys with wings. You know how, like, there's the monkeys with wings in the original? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah. Here's the thing. There's more to them too than they probably
So
put into
so
this movie.
basically in this movie they have wings, but as the wings are growing they're suffering. So she caused the animals to suffer, and she gets upset at the wizard that not only did he make the animals suffer, like the monkeys, which are now like in pain because of the wings. At the same time, she also realizes that all the bad stuff that was happening to the animals, putting them in cages, trying to like hurt them and get rid of them and all this stuff, this was all him. And he's like starting to be all slippery, trying to reason, like explain his reasoning why he's doing all this bad stuff. And then she gets upset at him and like runs away. And the movie just annoys me so much. Like, it's so obvious that they wanted the Wizard of Oz to be the big evil man, and it really annoys me. And then at the end, there's another thing. Uh, they didn't show it in this movie, but apparently it'll turn out in the second one. Sorry, spoilers. It'll turn out that the Wizard of Oz is the father of the Wicked Witch, and the way that he's the
Yep.
father is that he took her mother and served her grape juice, if you understand what I
Yep.
mean. Man, I mean, how
He
far
Bill
can they go with
Cosby'd her ass, basically. Yeah.
Yes, he gave her a pudding pop, yes. And, I don't like any of this. I don't want This is not what I want for Wizard of Oz. This was fine as some stupid thing on Broadway that some, weirdos wanna go watch, it's fine, but I don't think that this should be a movie that's passing itself off as a legitimate prequel to the 1939 movie, and that's exactly what they tried to do with it.
Yeah, in the original book, the monkeys are just there, and you can control them if you get the cap, and I think you can use them 3 times. So she used them once to defeat the wizard, then she used them again, I can't remember when, and then she used them again in, Wizard of Oz, in the Wonderful Wizard of Oz and in the movie. So, like, they're not like they're not they're bad guys too in a way, they're just like you just control them with this magic cap is all. And yes, Elphaba did one good thing in the entirety of the books, but here's the funny part about it. What she did was because those little guys that they're going Oreo, Oreo. I can't remember what the hell they're called. They're like the Twinks or whatever the hell the Tinks or whatever the hell they are.
I
She,
can't remember their name either,
yeah,
yeah.
but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
they're this race of people. Well, the wizard had used that race of people to build the Emerald City. Right? So he did actually enslave these people in a way to build Emerald City. I can't remember the circumstances that it was all about. But then she came in just and won the battle against the wizard by using the monkeys and quote unquote freed them. But then she turned around and enslaved them as her own fucking army. Right? So like
Right.
she's not a good person and nothing she ever does is anything but for herself. Like in this whole idea of what they're creating, they have to create all these tangential lines because she doesn't give a shit about the other witch dying. It's not her sister in the book. She just wants those fucking shoes. Right? It's all about a power struggle between her and the wizard in the book, basically, is what it is.
I
And who
believe
can
it.
control Oz. And because that's the thing, outside of Emerald City, everything is like utter chaos and fucking disturbing and scary as fuck in Oz. Like if you watch the movie, think about it. Everywhere Dorothy goes is terrifying. She goes to that fucking forest and all that other shit. Like, and they forget, like, because I don't even know what they do to all the characters in the movie here, but like, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion and shit. Like, she is responsible for the Tin Man. He was just a regular lumberjack, and she put a spell on him to where he started chopping off his limbs and replacing them with pieces of tin until he was nothing but a Tin Man.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like a cruel joke.
Yeah.
So like she's a disturbed individual. And this idea that they're trying to make her this good Winkies, thank you. And it was something like that, yeah. But they're the guys in the movie that are Oreo, those guys.
Right. So
Where they act like they're being slaves of hers, right? At the end, they thank Dorothy for killing the witch.
Yeah.
I just get annoyed thinking about how there's people that are kind of letting this movie slide. This is an absolute. The guy that wrote it, the wicked one, was an activist. He wrote it because he wanted all the stuff that we hate, that we see somebody taking something and turning it into a political platform. He did it right out in the open. Proud of it too. It's just at that time it was such a rarity that people didn't even care or didn't notice. But He did exactly that. He saw that and he's like, what if we use this to address islamophobia? He was a guy who is LG, the guy that wrote it, and he wanted to sort of make his statements about the patriarchy and about society and about discrimination. He had a lot of things on his chest that he wanted to get off, and he used this play as a vehicle to do all of that. And it is absolutely a smash the patriarchy, men are evil type of propaganda piece, and nobody wants to believe it because they put it on Broadway where they did singing and dancing with Adina Menzel, so they think, oh, it's so nice she was singing. Yeah, she was singing. Who cares? It's shit.
Tell us how you really feel, Bryce.
I mean, it
I'm
just
just glad it's
annoys
kind
me.
of
It just
falling off.
the movie annoys me, man. It annoys
Yeah.
me that and like I said to you, and we've been talking about this, we talked about this a few times, Tom. If they just kept it on Broadway as some kind of offbeat fan fiction, stupid play that maybe LG community and like women want to, I don't know what, enjoy the
It should have been
songs
the
or
next Cats, and they should have left it alone and learned that you shouldn't mess with this.
Yeah.
right.
It's like, yeah, at that point, to me, I feel like there's a due date. It's like if you don't make the musical movie version of or the movie version of a play by a certain date, then don't.
But they got away with this one. Cats was a huge failure. This is like they're not. It's not a failure.
You're right. Unfortunately, we're wrong in this equation because it's a hit.
Yeah, I mean, they stuck in Ariana Grande, which probably earned, got them some points. Some young people will go, there's some ladies that like her. As much as like, it's not that I have anything great to say about her, but she was probably good for marketing purposes. I don't think that Cynthia Erivo is good at all. Not just because she's annoying in interviews. I don't think she's that great. But
The sad part is Cynthia took the heat off of Ariana Grande.
I guess. I mean,
Well, no, I don't know if you knew that she was sleeping with the fucking lead who had just had a baby with his new wife and broke up a marriage during the making of the film. And not only that, what was it? Not even a year and a half, 2 years ago, or whatever it was. She was the one who licked all those donuts and put them back in the fucking thing at that donut shop and was all over the news for.
Oh, that was Ariana Grande that did the donut stuff?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Cynthia basically took the heat off of her because the fans were pissed that they had put Cynthia or Ariana Grande in the film. They didn't give a shit about Cynthia Erivo. And I think that's partially why she started acting out because nobody was paying attention to it.
I see.
Yep. And
I
she's
didn't
still
think
dealing,
about that.
and she's also still dealing with some kind of there's a copyright lawsuit over her plagiarizing some music from a song or something she wrote.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's such a standard thing anymore. Price
Wait,
probably
what
knows a
song
little
did
thing
she
about
write?
that.
I'm so confused.
Yeah,
Ariana Grande? She's
let me look it up real quick.
No, I'm
all
with Price.
those
She actually
singers-
writes music. What?
Yeah,
usually all
Seven
these
Rings.
I mean, her songs are
Alright.
so awful. I'd be kind of embarrassed to say that she stole something from somebody, but
Yeah. Oh,
maybe
she
she did.
settled. She settled a lawsuit by a hip hop artist who accused her of plagiarizing her 2019 smash song "Seven Rings." If it's
Probably
a big smash,
the
I don't know. I didn't hear it. so,
probably the original thing she swiped it off of was
Yeah.
crap, and her song was crap as well. But I'll tell you what, these days you have a lot of that. You have a lot of songs like there was that song. I think it was Uptown Funk or something. Bruno Mars released
Yeah.
that song, and afterwards had to settle with like 70 people. The truth is, sometimes I think it's a bit much. It's like everybody
We were just
that
talking about this not too long ago on Mead. Yeah.
everybody that has like half a beat or half a bass line that kind of sounds like it, it's like, okay, oh yeah, you stole from me, you stole from
And
me.
I think with AI, it's going to get worse.
You're
So
probably
much
right.
worse.
But I'm thinking to myself, in some cases I can sort of understand, but at the same time, I mean, if 70 people have to come in and charge each one for like a half a beat and half a bass line and half of this, at the end, you're influenced by the music that you grow up with. Sometimes you could be influenced and it's sort of its own new piece. It's not exactly the thing. It's not that I'm even the huge, Bruno Mars fan, but I thought that some of those things were a bit over the top, but he ended up settling. And now he did a song with that Korean girl. It's an annoying song, but it's doing very well. But that song that he did, when I heard it the first time, do you know what I'm talking about? Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
I have not heard the newer one, but I know the
Okay,
older
there's a
one,
song
yeah.
that he did with this girl called Rose. She was like in that Korean K-pop band Blackpink. So he did a song with her that already has like, 700 million views on YouTube or something like that. So that song that he did with her, the first time that I heard it, I thought to myself, this sounds like, oh, Mickey, you're so fine, you blow my mind, hey, Mickey. There was actually something
Right.
that really, really gave me that vibe. And I said to myself, wow, they're probably going to come and sue him. But then what did I do? Because he wrote it with her or something like that. What did I do? I went and looked online, and already from the get go, they already got clearance from them, meaning they already
Yes.
anticipated this would happen. They struck a deal with them, said, hey, it's not Mickey, but it kind of reminds you of Mickey. And they already struck a deal with them in advance, got some kind of approval, and then made the song. And I think that we'll see more of that moving
We
forward.
are already. In fact, I noticed this the first time about 2-3 years ago. And I brought this up on me. Maybe you weren't there that night, but
Maybe.
because,
What
or maybe
was
it was
it?
on
What
a
did you
morning.
bring
It might
up?
have been on a morning show. That song from Bill and Ted's, the new Bill and Ted movie, the Weezer single that came out. I just happened to notice that Billy Joel was credited as one of the writers. And I'm like, what the fuck? Billy Joel? I'm like, okay. So then I did some research, and I guess they preemptively gave him money and paid him out because I guess the chorus is similar to The Longest Time. And I'm sitting here listening to the song going, where are they getting this from? And then I'm like sitting here thinking, we were talking about this, and I'm like, there must be by now, what they do is they make these songs and then they feed them into an like an AI algorithm thing to make sure that it doesn't match anything. If
Right.
it comes up as a remotely close match, they just preemptively pay these fuckers out as a writer so they don't have to deal with it later.
And the
Because
thing
remember
is
that,
that if they preemptively do it, it's also easier. Like, it's always more difficult once a song makes money to start
yes,
getting deals. Now, I know this. I was once, how do I explain this? I once had some kind of business interaction with a person that he was one of the writers of a hit song released, I think it was Sony. Okay. Now, really long story. He basically because I was working with him, I found out the deal that he had. There was a song that was performed by an artist that has a lot of listeners on Spotify. It's probably received hundreds of millions of listens. Okay. And what he was promised is he gave one of the beats or something like that, and they gave him maybe 12% or something like that. The 12% from some kind of royalties or whatever it is, he gets like 12%. Now you think the 12% would be worth something? 12%, he made a few $1,000s. And that's after the thing was played for like hundreds of millions of streams on Spotify. He made something in the thousands.
well, this is why there isn't more of those lawsuits, because unless the song is a hit or it is a big artist, then what are you going to get? Right. Like, and that's where a lot of them, I've heard of tons of times where people have thought about suing other individuals over things, but it's like, what's the point? You're not going to get anything out of it. Like you just, especially now, there's no
Right.
money to be made in the music industry. It's all in the touring.
Yep.
True.
Because you don't get any money anymore because they don't sell albums anymore. Good luck, go find an album. Unless it's Billie Eilish or Taylor Swift or somebody like that. Even Garth Brooks' latest album was in God, what the hell's that bait and tackle fucking fish chain? Oh God. Not
Oh,
Gander Mountain, but the other one.
Bass Pro
I know what
Shops?
you mean.
Bass Pro. His new album is only available in Bass Pro
Yeah.
shops. Which he's probably making a mint on that.
Probably.
To be
Yeah.
honest.
He probably got a bunch of money up front from
Exactly.
Bass
That's
Pro
my point.
Shops.
It's the only way you can make money now, because you ain't gonna make no money on any of this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who buys CDs besides guys like us?
I know.
Maybe they give him a lump sum in advance. I'm trying to think
That's
what
exactly
the
what it
incentive.
is. Yeah.
Maybe they call those Mickey people up and they're like, here's 50 grand a piece or whatever it
Well,
is.
they're just
Here's 50 grand.
preemptively stopping any kind of lawsuit. And somebody like her is big enough to where even if the song isn't a hit, they'll still come after you, right? That was my point. Now, if you're just some Joe Blow nobody and you happen to write a song that shares 4 bars with something else on accident, and if the song is not a big hit and you're not a big superstar, nobody's going to pay attention to you, right? Like that's just it. It's just the way it is. There's no sense in anybody coming after you. But I agree with you. Like the one that really blew this open, and a lot of people in the industry were like, "Wait a minute here, we're starting to get into some really gray territory." Was that Blurred Lines case? Which is funny that it's called Blurred Lines, because you are blurring the lines here between what is.
That was a bullshit lawsuit. Honestly, it's not that I even like Robin Thicke or Pharrell especially, but
No,
I
but
think
they had to
I
go to an
think that was
extreme
over
to
the
make
top.
that the same song, right? Like it's just because it sounds in the same vein of.
It's a
You're really
similar
stretching.
style, but there was times that I was making music myself, and I worked with a guy who's sort of a producer, who was a friend of mine, and I'd be like, "Hey, I really want to make this song kind of seem like a song," and I'd give him a song that I like, but I don't want it to be the same song. I just kind of want an atmosphere that's kind of reminiscent.
You want
Or
that
I'd give him a
feeling,
few
yeah.
songs. I'm like, the chorus, I want it to kind of be like Stone Temple Pilots, this song. The verse, I kind of want it to be like Pink Floyd in this song, and then you kind of put it together, and we're working on it and trying to make it in that direction. It's not a copy of any of those. You don't listen to it and think it's the same song. But what happened with Blurred Lines is they said, "Hey, it's the same atmosphere, so now you're fucked."
I
No,
mean,
but
there's always that 4-chord thing and all that kind of crap too. That's the problem.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
it didn't sound like that Marvin Gaye song. It had
no,
something that
no.
you could tell that they heard the thing and they wanted something. You know how sometimes you have music for TV shows or whatever it is. It's like something that sounds similar to something, but it's not the
Yes,
same.
which is kind of what I do a lot of the time. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's
No.
what
I
it
mean,
sounded like.
it's like, I mean, you just sit there and it's like, what song am I playing? I mean, I'm just randomly grabbing, but it sounds like 20 fucking pop songs, don't it?
Right.
There's only 12 fucking chords in the fucking, you know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly.
There's just variations on different things. I mean, come on, you can only do so much.
There's so
And you're
many
right.
songs that have the same chord structure. I mean, what they can they all sue each other?
Well, even Tom Petty thought it was really dumb because I can't remember which song it was, but it was that Sam Smith "Stay With Me" song.
Yeah.
Because the company went after him. He's like, I don't even give a shit. He's
Yeah.
like, he's like, this is to me. He's like, this is silly. He's like, if it was up to me, we wouldn't even be bothering with this thing, and it's the company that's doing it. And that's kind of the thing too. Is it's usually the company, and at this point, they kind of cleaned a lot of that up because there's only 3 basic companies anymore that own all the music. It
Right.
used to be a lot different. Now you got BMG, Sony, and Warner Brothers, and that's
Warner
it. And I think,
Chapel or something.
yeah, and I think that Universal's part of one of them. I can't remember which, but yeah, I think it's a Warner Universal or whatever. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
But now with AI, it feels like all these people are even irrelevant. Most of the songs these days, the new artists, they sound like AI anyways.
Yeah. Well, and you're going to get this huge influx of you're going to get people who are just pumping out hundreds, thousands of AI songs. You throw them on something like YouTube. You're supposed to say they're generated by AI, but it's literally just a checkbox you don't have to check. You throw it in there and you pay your couple of bucks to put your, whatever copyright stuff on it, and then you can make copyright claims all day long.
See, and that's what
It's
bothers
gonna
me
be wild.
is I can go in and make a song right now. You give me lyrics, give me a style, it'll throw me out anything you want. Now, me, on the other hand, I'm sitting there and I go in there and I actually have this feature to where I can feed it with like a melody or a piece of music and it'll try to work with that. So that's what I do is try to write my own thing. And I don't have a band, right? I don't have a studio. I don't have access to all these things. But because of AI now, I can take this piece of music I have in my head and project it through the AI and it'll spit out on the other end what I'm hearing, right? Like that Nosferatu project I did. It took me a long time to get those songs the way I wanted them.
Yeah.
But it took that's exactly how I did it basically. It was a lot of work, but I don't have an orchestra. I don't have a choir, you know, or access to one.
You don't?
I know,
Oh,
right?
my
It's sad.
world is
Did you
falling
feed it?
apart
Did you
around
feed
me,
it like
Tom.
voices that you wanted?
Well, I would feed it like little melodies and pieces, and then like I would stitch together things that I liked. So like if you watch the movie, there's little themes for certain characters and story elements.
I did watch it.
And then if you listen throughout, it kind of amps up. They're mixing, and then you get to the end, and it's like this full blown rock opera, like metal rock opera kind of thing. And it's kind of what it was. It's just kind of this ramping up of the music. And some people just didn't get it. Some people thought it was too much. I'm like, it's a silent film. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Would I score a regular movie like this? No.
No.
No, I thought you did well. There was also a part they're like Nosferatu. There's like people singing that. I think.
Well, there's a bunch of Hungarian or Romanian in there and stuff like mixed in, and it's just randomness. It's like blood is life, and stuff like that. Just
By the way, good segue, and maybe our final thing that we can discuss, because I actually wanted to discuss it with you, but you weren't on your own show today for some reason.
I
guess
took a nap because nobody answered me.
I'll tell you why. Early on in the day, I was doing stuff, and you wrote something like, "Can we do something early and short?" And I didn't even know
I
what you
didn't
were
say anything about
talking.
early. I just said, anybody up for a short stream? I figured 6 o'clock. Some of y'all might still be around, but nobody answered me. You usually get back to me. Nick usually gets back to me, but nobody said shit. Well, then, so I'm like, fuck it. At about 5 o'clock, I decide I'm going to take a nap since nobody's answering me. We just won't do a show tonight. It's New Year's Eve. Everybody's out rocking. Whatever.
I thought there was just it will be the standard one whenever it is, and I thought
I wake
maybe
up
we
at
do like
10:30
7.
and yeah, I'm like, what the fuck is this? The whole thing blew up, and I'm like, y'all aren't doing a stream. Yeah.
I don't know. I suddenly Mikey was streaming, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. But I saw he was streaming by himself, so I'm like, okay. And it wasn't even the right time. It was he didn't even realize when he was even supposed to start it. He just started it whenever, and I'm just like, okay. So I joined him. It was all very
I
bizarre.
didn't even look how much you guys made me. Yeah.
I think it was an interesting stream. I don't know if you listened to it.
Yeah, I did before I hopped in.
Did you like it?
I told you in the DM thing, I'm like, Price, that shit ain't cheese.
Right, I saw that you wrote that, but I
Because
didn't
he's
know
like,
if you.
okay, so for context, they were talking about nacho cheese, and Price is like, I hate that cheddar cheese stuff they have. It's just too much. It's just not. There's something about it,
It
and I'm
made
like,
me sick. I ate it and I
well, it's
felt
because it's
sick
not
for.
fucking cheese, dude.
Cheese
It's
flavored food product. It's literally
Exactly.
labeled that way on the can. Nacho cheese flavored.
And what was really
food
making me
product.
nuts is you're like calling it cheddar cheese. I'm like, that is the farthest thing from fucking cheddar, dude. You. My state was
geez.
built on cheddar cheese. Okay.
Let's see. Somebody wrote a musical question here. Let's see for a second. Jeanette, Phil drew inspiration from it, but at the end Phil made it his own. Peter didn't slam him with a lawsuit. So stupid. Are you talking about the gated reverb? What are you talking?
Yeah, they were talking about something to do with Genesis.
Okay.
Well, those guys were actually
Yeah.
more like the whole idea that there was some sort of animosity between those guys is bullshit. I don't know if anybody, like Peter decided he just wanted to leave, and everybody's like, okay, well now what do we do? You know, it wasn't like there was a big blowout or anything like that. It just it was just kind of like they were going their own directions, and they tried finding a new lead, and it just wasn't working out. And Phil was already a big part of the band, right? Like
His drums were great, and he was good
well,
at
not just that,
backing
he was
vocals.
more than just a drummer, right? Like, I mean, they were all like these great musicians that you had together at this time, and they're just trying to figure out what their sound is even yet. I mean, you're talking about this is like you get in the ground floor of guys who are creating a sound, you know, and Genesis doesn't get enough credit. You know, they're up there with like Pink Floyd and some of those other guys about to create. They created that sound coming into the 80s of especially
I
Phil.
mean, I give credit. I thought that the early albums of Genesis were special. Selling in England
Yeah.
by the pound. Some of those early ones really were
Did
something
they get
unique.
corporate later? Yes, absolutely. Then they're
Totally.
just trying to recreate themselves over and over.
From
again.
the second that Peter Gabriel left, I feel like they took a hard left when it comes to the corporate thing. They became much more poppy. At the beginning, maybe there was some residue of still quality very early on, but I don't hate everything they've done in the 80s.
Well, In the Air Tonight is their peak. That's the problem.
Well,
right?
In the Air Tonight is a Phil Collins solo
It
song,
is, yeah.
and that's probably the best thing he's ever done solo.
But I mean, that's the problem is that's the same era. But then you go listen to I Can't Dance, to me is one of their better albums. And it's a very corporate album.
But
that's an album I can listen to from beginning to end. I don't care. It's a well structured album in a sense that there's not a bad song on it. I'll argue that one. Is it like drop your everything and fucking listen to it now album? No. But it's an album I can throw on in the background, and I don't have to worry about skipping through a few songs because they're boring.
I mean, as much as there's such cheese on it, I think
It's cheesy, but
Invisible Touch, I think, is a better album than I Can't Dance.
I don't know if I could listen to that one all the way through, though. That's my thing.
I mean, again, both of them.
Let me look at the track
struggle
list.
with both of these. They're both cheesy, but they're Invisible Touch. I'm trying to think. It has Land of Confusion. I at least like the song Land of Confusion. I won't lie to you. That's probably one of their better, 80s songs.
The problem is it starts out to. The problem with that album is it does. I could probably listen to it all the way through, but You got
It's cheese, man.
it's
Both of
got a
those.
shitty
Hey,
ending to
you
the
know what?
album, though.
You know
Yeah.
what, Price? We've already established that you do not know what cheese is. So
Right.
I'm not
This is
sure.
true. I'm not even going to throw that at it, but he's not wrong. I mean, am I going to sit here and pretend that Genesis, especially later Genesis,
Yeah.
isn't just basic corporate
Total
Phil
corporate.
Collins, you know? But then
Total
again, I feel like Phil Collins doesn't get enough credit for the sounds that he created in the 80s. I mean, it's
So here, I can think they're saying Collins got slammed for making Studio a lot like Peter Gabriel's Shock the Monkey. That is weird to me because I'm thinking
they
do, do,
work
do,
together on that
do, do,
shit,
do.
though.
Shock the Monkey. Shock the Monkey doesn't sound like Studio to me.
No, but if I remember
Studio.
correctly, I think if it wasn't Shock the Monkey, it was another one of the songs of Gabriel's big ones that Phil helped him with.
Maybe, but Studio doesn't sound like Shock the Monkey to me. Those are very two different songs. Never connected them in my mind. And actually, if I'm honest, Shock the Monkey is the better song.
That's the more raw Peter Gabriel.
Right. Do
Mhm.
do 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 do, and then like Shock
Like,
the
that
Monkey.
sounds like something he recorded in his garage. That's my point.
It's
Yeah, like,
cool. I think Shock the Monkey is a pretty cool song, whereas Studio is total cheese. Yes, it
see,
is
that's the
cheese.
thing. For some reason in my brain, because I watched some documentary about Genesis, and there was the segment in there when they broke up, and it wasn't even like a major breakup like most
No, they
bands, right?
remained on good terms. They don't hate
Yeah,
each
and
other.
like I said, and even Phil helped him. I swear it was on one of the
Right, I
albums.
think that he did help
It
him.
was
They
Steam, I
weren't
think it
enemies. They
was.
weren't enemies. And Jeanette says all Phil did was say a smile and say yes, yes it does. But I don't think Studio sounds like Shock the Monkey. Not to me, it doesn't. And then
I see where they're coming from. It has similar production elements to it. Like the thing with those two guys and both of them, and that's where I can see why they're too strong of personalities to be in the same band. Is both Peter Gabriel and Phil build most of their music on the drum beat. Like if you listen to their music, they have very slappy, specific drumming types that they like to use. Whoa, what happened? What the hell happened?
Oh no.
What happened?
It looks like the application crashed. Everything.
I was wondering. I was
And
to say, I don't think that's me.
nope. Everything
wait,
went down, and I came
did
back, and it was
everybody
all
did we
empty.
disappear
And
for everybody? What happened?
yeah, it disappeared for everyone.
Yeah, I
It
went
was
through like
still
some weird
streaming
cycle on
to.
my end. Yeah.
It was still streaming to YouTube, still streaming. We're still on Rumble. We're still on YouTube. But yeah, it just completely dropped out
I'm
for
back.
Well,
everybody.
anyway, let's get into some more movies of the year because my three favorites of the year. You guys, I mean, I know you talked a little Nosferatu, which is
Right. I
probably my
thought
favorite.
Nosferatu without spoiler. I was saying that I enjoyed it. I think that it took the original movie, sort of saw all the important beats from the original, and then used it as a blueprint to make a new one, but to make it much more kind of elaborate and visually impressive and modern, but at the same time sort of respecting the original, the blueprint of the original. And I
You know
really
what's
like that.
funny? That's basically the same kind of analogy I use when I bring that up on good remakes. When I'm like, okay, it's like the original film was the movie of the story. Now we're seeing the actual story. Right? Like that's what it felt like
Right.
with me at this too. And it's the same kind of thing. I totally get where you're coming from. Totally get it. And I feel the exact same way. And I can't talk enough about how great of a film it is. But
I really
I
liked it. It probably it may have been the best movie that I saw all year, Nosferatu.
oh yeah, on every level, like it's my number one film of the year.
It's just
Um,
it did everything right. I mean, so you were saying you like Deadpool and Wolverine? Yeah, I enjoyed that, but that's not the best movie of the year. It's a
oh
movie that I
no, no,
enjoyed.
no, no.
It's a movie that I enjoyed, but I don't think it was a fantastic movie. Whereas Nosferatu, really, when it comes to cinematography, to directing, to the acting, to the whole the storytelling, I liked everything that I saw there. I don't know. I sat down there and I didn't have many expectations. Really enjoyed the movie.
Right. No, totally. I mean, it's subjectively and objectively probably the best film of the year. Now, you could get into an argument about which movie um did the most as far as production and all that kind of stuff and put into it between Wicked and Nosferatu. But to me, Nosferatu wins hands down in every other category, so it doesn't fucking
Wicked is a
matter.
piece of crap. I think they should
In
take Wicked
comparison,
and
yeah.
flush it down the toilet. I
No,
think
but
that no.
I'm trying to give Wicked at least credit for the production value, because I did see the behind the scenes stuff. They did build a lot of those sets and all that business, so I mean, I'll give them credit
All
for the
for naught.
costuming and all that.
It's a bunch of
But yeah,
crap.
I agree with you in a sense that it doesn't really add up to anything at the end of the day, to where Nosferatu, look, I get it's getting some mixed reactions from people. I think that Andre and myself and a few other people are kind of right, though. I think the biggest issue with this movie, and every time I see a comment, I just bite my fucking tongue and I just leave it alone, because I don't need to get into some internet spat about it. But I think the biggest issue is that people are misinterpreting Nosferatu as your standard typical vampire story when it's not.
You know, you should watch my review because that's exactly what I say in it. I
Yeah.
basically said at the end that there's a comment that I'm making that the movie may not be for everyone. And what I say in this is that I think that if people are looking for the kind of cheap thrills that you get from a standard, average kind of run of the mill modern horror movie, that's not what this is. I explained that this is a more artsy kind of period piece that's also a horror movie done really well. And it's not exactly that standard horror thing, that if you're just looking for those kind of Blumhouse crappy movies, sorry, maybe some of them are not crappy, but you understand what I'm trying to say. If you're looking for a Blumhouse movie of the week where there's just some kind of monster and there's a scare every 2 seconds and then you forget about it when you leave the theater, that's not what Nosferatu is.
No, you're right. And what's funny is some of the snobby people that are coming after this movie is like the same people that would like silly crap like the Babadook or whatever, that elevated horror stuff. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody. Look, you're 100% right. This movie is a type of movie that it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. There's some people I know that would never sit through a movie like this, regardless, and that's totally cool and fair. I get it. But the people that are bothering me are the ones that are like knocking on it, but they'll like really lame, more modern crap, and it's like, you guys don't understand. This guy went and took, you know, a beautiful piece of music, and he gave us a brand new recording of it like you've never heard before.
Right,
Over,
right, and you did it really well. And,
yeah,
Jeanette was saying something here, that she didn't like the ending, because of the sacrifice, things like that. But again,
that is what makes the story, though. Actually,
right, I mean, he took the original and he brought it, like you said, he did a brand new, a brand new, performance of a classic musical piece, and he did a really great performance. But that's the piece. That's what the story is, and that's what it is. Even if you don't like it, that's the way the story goes.
he
He
didn't
wasn't
change any of the notes. He added more notes. That's what he did.
right. He added depth to it. He added a few things, and I liked all of it. All of his additions, I liked. I like everything that he did, and even when I was watching it with all of his additions, I loved the fact that I still saw the original movie in there.
Oh yeah, and not only that, we're hearing that we're going to get a 3-hour cut or whatever on
I will
when it
watch
comes to
that
video.
3 you know what? In the theater, I said in my review that I thought that I could have trimmed this down by like 10, 15 minutes, this movie, but it didn't keep me from enjoying it. And honestly, if there's a 3-hour one and I could watch it at home, I'm definitely going to watch it.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely curious what didn't make the cut.
Yeah, totally
Um,
curious as to what didn't make the cut, but
because I
whatever
know
did
there's a
make
few scenes that are probably shot that didn't make it into the movie, right? Like I just know that they had to probably be shot because they're in the original film.
right. That's true. That's true. There are probably things that, were shot and they didn't put in there, and they're probably based on the original.
Well,
It'll
and you
be
didn't
really
necessarily
intriguing.
need them. That was the beauty of the editing. Like, there's not much I could go in and say you could change as an editor. Because I'm watching this movie and I'm like, I know the bits that he took out story wise, other than I don't know what he created for the film, but I know the stuff that was there previously. But it made sense because if you watch the film and if you know the original movie, you don't need it. You already get the story element in another way, so you don't have to retell that scene. You could just skip over it, which they do in the movie. So you're like, okay, so you saved yourself trouble there. And I'm watching the movie, and there's not much more you can do other than maybe tighten it up just a little bit. But the movie is wound so tight already that, I mean, I get it. Some people are like, "Oh, it's so slow and boring." It's like, then you're not, I get it. It's just not your cup of tea. That's cool. Not everybody likes country music. Not everybody likes rock and roll. Like that's the way I look at it. To me, though, this is a very woundly tight knit, very well done. He takes all the classic themes and elements of the original film and threads them together perfectly with the characters. Everything is here for a reason. Nothing feels like it's fat or shouldn't be there. So even if it does have moments where it does feel like it's holding itself for something, it's to me that was where it was building the tension. And there is some explosive scenes that I feel like they wouldn't be as explosive if it didn't feel like you had those calms before each one of those storms. Although to me, stepping back and looking at the movie, I'm like, I don't know how anybody can say that this movie is boring because so much is happening in every scene that Eggers really tightened up the story, even though he added some elements to it. I mean, you're talking about a 100-year-old silent film that was running in 90 minutes in its original state.
It's a matter of expectations. They're not going into it thinking what you and I are sort of. We like classic cinema. This is from the silent era. It's a classic piece of filmmaking, one that opened the door to an entire genre. We know what it is. We know what the original is, and we understand the artistic value of the original and what's being done here. Maybe somebody that didn't understand what we understand or isn't coming from the same place wouldn't quite get it. And I can tell from the comments on my review that some people don't get it, but I feel good about the review that I gave it.
Now, an Emperor's asked, do they humanize or sympathize with the villain? Oh, fuck, no.
No.
If
Which I'm
anything, they
happy.
make it less human in some ways. I mean,
He is evil. He is evil, and that's what they say, and that's what he is. And I'm really, really grateful for that.
no, he is a representation of everything that is wrong with everything, basically. Like he's decay, he's society's sins, he's the bringer of the plague and disease. He is in no way, shape, or form any way sympathetic whatsoever. There's nothing to feel sorry about him for, in that
Right.
respect. You were going to say something, Art, too? Sorry.
No. I was. We had just had a super chat.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. Can
okay.
you share that if I
From you.
if I share it in the?
Oh no, I
Where
see
did
what
you
did.
find it? Where is it from?
It's on YouTube. So I kind of typed it into the private chat. I don't know if you can share private chat in the
I don't know
studio
if
or
I
not.
can, but let's see. Maybe I have an
We'll try
idea.
it.
I did that, and now I can pin this. Okay.
There you go.
Super chat. I have Nadik.
I knew you would have fun reading that. So that's why I didn't want to take that from you.
$5. Happy New Year. My 10-year-old nephew Corbin and I watched all 3 Lord of the Rings films today, his first time, and now we're playing Geometry Dash until the Paul drops. Well,
Nice.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, and thank you for the super chat. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate you hanging out with us. It's not the first time. I actually see you here quite often, and we're always happy.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
I'm a little disturbed, Nodik, because I also have a nephew named Corbin. So that's a little weird, but it's I am not. I have Nodik. I promise.
Hey POR, that's from Stargoose. Hey POR, love your reviews. Thank you. I'm not sure I posted the latest one to Rumble yet. Sometimes I have to be more organized, but thank you. But yeah, some people are checking out my review. A lot of people watched my Wicked review. A lot, considering my channel size, a lot of people watched it. So many people complained. I got a lot of kind of. I'm not ratio. There's more thumbs up than thumbs down, but there's certainly a lot of thumbs down I got. Is Tom okay?
Indeed. Oh, he's still trying to get that camera working.
I was trying to get the camera thing working again, but
It's okay.
it's just not working. on me. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah.
No, I mean I love Nosferatu. I hope more people get a chance to see it in the next couple of weeks here.
You're saying that it's not that traditional vampire flick.
No.
Is making me want to go see it more because honestly, generally, I hate vampire stuff. It's stupid.
The problem is
vampire stuff.
The problem comes in that a lot of people misinterpret the history of Nosferatu. Like a lot of people think, oh, it was a Dracula ripoff and they just didn't want to pay the state, so they just changed the names. And that's only somewhat true. They were always going to make a story about a being like this, but their understanding of what a vampire is and what they put into this is more of the traditional Hungarian, Eastern European folklore that was going around. Because really what was the inspiration was not Murnau, but the producer, I think it was ran into a guy in a bar in Hungary or Romania, I can't remember which, that was claiming that his father or grandfather was a vampire, and they were telling all these stories about, how the villagers would deal with all this stuff and all the superstitions and all that kind of stuff. So he was taking a lot of that stuff and putting it into the story. And Count Orlok isn't so much a vampire as he is, because depending on how you interpret his origin story, it's either he was a normal count who just was dabbling in the dark arts and happened to call up Belial and made a pact with him, and now he's this creature that just walks forever on Earth, basically the bringer of death and suffering and all that kind of shit. Or he is the actual offspring of Belial and a human, so he's the bastard child of a bull. Either or, either one works. In this version, Eggers decided it looks more like to go with the former than the latter. And to me, it feels like in the original film, it's more the latter, but I could be wrong. But either way, you could interpret it either way. And that's kind of what it is. He's not your traditional vampire. He wasn't bit by somebody. He wasn't, if anything, he's like the original vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't turn anybody. And this is what I love about, if anybody hasn't seen the film Shadow of the Vampire, check it out. Because it's kind of a quasi remake / story about the making of Nosferatu.
That's like a meta one. It's like supposedly
it's
behind the scene. It was an interesting movie. I've only seen it once many years ago.
But it actually, and I just watched it again in preparation for all our stuff we did this last year here with the movie. And I'm watching it again this more recently. I'm like, holy shit, this is just a remake of Nosferatu, but it's being told in a different way. Because it's all the same story at the end. It actually even ends the same as Nosferatu. When they're filming that final scene, they play like they're filming it for real with the death of Count Orlok and all that kind of stuff. But what's great is there's this scene in there where there's these crew members that are talking to Orlok, and he's just talking about his memories and stuff like that. And they ask him about where he came from and all this stuff. He's like, I don't ever remember being able to turn anybody into a vampire. And he's like, I don't remember this because I forgot, because he's like 500 some years old and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, it's this really great scene. So to me, that's kind of what it probably is, what Orlok is supposed to be. He's this being that's been here forever, and the only thing that's going to ever stop him is the human sacrifice that Ellen provides, right? And it's this whole idea that modern science and medical combats and can't deal with the old ways, right? And you need that old mentality, and that's where Willem Dafoe's character, or the original Doctor, comes into the story too, because he's a Paracelsian and he believes in all these old ways and human sacrifice and blood sacrifice and shit like that.
Yeah, I agree. By the way, I just want to show you. Let me see if I can. Oh, I tried.
But other than just the idea of this guy's going to buy a piece of land, and the Ellen character kind of being like Mina, and Thomas being a lot like Jonathan, there's those elements that are similar, and they used those pieces to tell their story. But once you get past that, Dracula and Nosferatu are two very different stories at the end of the day when it comes to the climax, because Dracula is just defeated or whatever, and to this, it's more about the sacrifice that Ellen makes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a biblical element to it and all that kind of shit. But anyway, moving on. I know that there was.
I was trying to show you a comment, but it somehow didn't work.
Well, my other few favorite films of the year, because Deadpool and Wolverine is quickly falling down the top 10. Juror number 2. Oh my god, I don't know who's seen that yet.
I've seen that movie. I forgot to mention that that's a pretty good movie. I didn't like it as much as Nosferatu, but I did like it. I thought it was a good movie.
It's in my top 5. I'm still trying to juggle my top 5. Nosferatu is the only one that I know for fact is my number 1. We lost Price altogether.
Price has disappeared.
There he's back.
Yeah, he'll come.
I've been trying to figure out what my second favorite of the year was, whether it's Saturday Night or Juror number 2. But those are probably the next ones in line as far as my favorite.
Saturday Night was pretty good. I still think Saturday Night was interesting, and I didn't dislike it, but there were a lot of things that were very convenient. Maybe too convenient.
It does have issues. I'm not going to say it doesn't.
So I still enjoyed it for whatever it was, but it's not perfect. But what I wanted to show is this thing. This is a comment that just as here we go. Just as we were, waiting around, I keep getting these nasty comments on my Wicked thing. So this is what they look like. This is a comment. Don't know how I stumbled onto this review, but I hope you got paid highly enough to never review anything again. The audacity to claim that Ariana Cynthia singing is subpar. Anyways, Wicked is now, and it gets cut off here, but it says Wicked is now the highest grossing musical ever, or something like that.
Oh, the asterisks next to that are fucking fun though. I mean, first of all the kid, is it really though?
I don't even know. Is it?
Like most of those Disney movies be considered musicals?
I mean, The
If that's
Lion
the
King.
case, yeah. Little Mermaid, Lion King, all those grossed a hell of a lot more.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're talking about, and I don't really. I don't know what they. I get so many of these weird comments on my Wicked review of people that are annoyed, and all of
Fuck
them are
'em.
kind of like this. It's like they're so offended that I said I didn't like it. I don't have to like it.
Fuck them.
It's so weird.
I'm not
these
offended
days
by
that-
people like not liking shit that I don't like.
I mean, I don't think I ever go to like a review, and if I watch a review and somebody liked it or doesn't like a movie, I don't usually go and start like having meltdowns over it. I mean, you didn't
I
like
will
it, you
get a
didn't like it.
disagreement or argument if somebody is like says, "Oh, I didn't like it because of this," and it's like, "Well, that's not what the movie's about." It's like that is a different story. I'll get in an argument with somebody like that all day long. But like if somebody just doesn't like something, it's just not their cup of tea. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm not going to sit there and whatever, but I'm not going to go out of my way to bitch at somebody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to go to, like, if you and I disagree on a movie, I'm not going to go to your review and bombard you with like a bunch of like, you're so fucking wrong. Like,
Right. I mean, you at worst you would just write, "Oh, I like the movie." That's it. What more is there to talk about? You have people. It's as if like I ruined their whole lives that I said I didn't like it, and it's just it's fascinating sometimes to see these things. I don't know. I mean, almost every review I'll do will have a few weirdos, but I feel like Wicked really drew in the weirdos more
yeah,
than
it did.
usual.
Yeah, it's almost like a Snyder crowd in a way.
Yeah.
But I know you guys were talking about worst films of the year, I think, before I even got in here.
Yeah, so
we
Madam
were
Web
talking
was
about
bad.
we were talking about a few different.
I haven't seen Madam
different
Web,
things.
but
Madam Web has to be the worst. For me, I think Madam Web is the worst of the whole year, because if you watch it, it's not even a movie. I mean, I was talking with Professor R2. He was mentioning like Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon is a stupid movie, but it's still a movie. Madam Web, you're watching it and you're like, what is this? This isn't even a movie. That's what you feel like when you watch Madam Web. That's how bad it is.
That's kind of how I rate films as far as the worst films of the year, but also at the same time, I would probably not put Madam Web as far down or up on the list as other people would, because I would have never walked in expecting Madam Web to be any good in the first place.
No, but
see, like I have like this baseline for films. Now, like here's my example of the worst films of the year would be like Joker 2, obviously. It's probably the number one.
Yeah,
pick.
that's really bad.
The Marvels was pretty bad, but I wouldn't even put
Yes.
that as far as being as bad as stuff like Axel F. I thought was worse. Because to me, I had higher expectations going into that. Same thing with like Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice to me is a worse offender.
Well, I mean, the thing is that I still recognize that as annoying as Axel F was, it still was more of a movie. Madam Web doesn't qualify as a movie. It's really and the Marvels. I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
about
but you know
that
what?
either.
Madam Web's gonna come and go, and I'm never gonna think about it again.
It's more of what it means to you, though. When I do this,
in a way, you're not wrong. Yeah.
I don't think to myself, of course, I grew up watching Eddie Murphy in those movies. And for me, Axel F., I really wanted it to be good. And man, is it disappointing that it's not good. And that they ruined Taggart's character right before that, John Ashton passed away. Really, really sad that they couldn't give him a proper send-off. Made Rosewood look
and I
like
don't disagree with you. Like, yeah,
idiot.
The Marvels and Madam Web and all that shit belong on the list. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I almost get those almost fall near a category of like the Sharknado movies or stuff like that, to where I would never pick on them because they're not trying to be anything. But you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you, Price. Madam Web definitely deserves the ire it's getting, right? Like, and I'm sure Borderlands is probably another, but I didn't watch these movies because
I didn't see Borderland, to be honest.
Yeah.
But Madam Web, I regret not seeing Borderland because I feel like it's probably one of the top 3 bad movies of the year, and I just want to know. I want that knowledge of how bad it is, but I just didn't get around to it. And it came in and out of the theater so quickly that by the time I said, this is so bad, I have to see how bad it is, but it just left so quickly. I didn't even get the chance.
Well, the upside is Craven sounds like the second coming of Morbius, so we might get lucky.
You know what? I was telling Professor R2 that the reason why I don't think that Craven is as bad as Madam Web, I have a friend of mine, Erwin from Nerd Wars, that he's like, oh, Madam Web and Craven are both equally as bad, and I told him no.
No, Madam Web had an agenda.
Not even that. It's that forget about the agendas. If you watch Madam Web, and I tell you that it costs $200 million to produce it, you're going to be sitting there with like your jaw dropping at how badly just the technical, every aspect of the movie. You know, sometimes you see a movie, it's terrible, but you say, well, you know what, the cinematography wasn't bad, the music wasn't bad. There is nothing to hold on to. Madam Web is something that I can't. That has to be a money laundering operation. I can't believe that $200 million was spent on this movie. It is not a movie. It is so bad on every aspect. And if you saw it, you wouldn't believe how bad it is. With Craven the Hunter, I would say that it's not a good movie. I wouldn't give it a passing grade, which I didn't in my review. But there were moments, there were like, suddenly 5 minutes of action with Aaron Taylor Johnson that I'm like, hey, you know what? I kind of like this. It's too bad that the action, you get about 15 minutes out of like an hour and 45 minutes. Maybe if they focused more on giving some kind of action-packed, cool thing, there was something to work with. Even if it wasn't a great movie, it would have been a somewhat enjoyable one. But the thing is that Craven, so misguided that there's just a few moments here and there that I don't think are terrible, but the movie is terrible. Do you get the difference?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And see, here's the thing, like Morbius, I can enjoy that on the same level as The Room. Right. I know they set out to make a serious film, and this thing turned out to be a fucking disaster, and they have no
Right.
clue how bad it is. I love those kind of movies. See,
I
Craven, I
did
have a
not
feeling
hit
I'm going to
her.
adore.
I did
Yeah.
not.
And I haven't seen Madam Web yet, but I have a feeling I'll have the same problem. But I guess the only reason I could say that I know Madam Web would be worse is because A, it has the agenda, but not just the agenda aspect attached to it, is the only reason that movie exists is because that was meant to be that glass ceiling project, and it just kept being recycled into something else. Craven almost makes sense on paper. Morbius almost makes sense on paper. And I've even made the argument that Craven could have actually saved their ass in a way had they just, and I think you were there the day we were talking about this. All you had to do is not tell anybody it was a Craven film. Just
Right.
promote it like it's a typical revenge-o-matic movie. Call it The Hunter, and those who know, and those who
Right.
don't know, it doesn't
It would have
fucking
worked.
matter.
It would have totally
Yeah.
worked. By the way, Mephisto's movie reviews that I know
Hey,
you're
Mephisto.
how's it going? I know we're both friends of his. Happy New Year, Price, Tom, and the rest of the crew. So happy New Year, man. Happy New Year, Mephisto. Good to hear from you.
I think he's already into the new year, though, isn't he?
He's
a
7.
future. He's
It's
in the
9
future.
a.m. for him. It's 9 a.m. on New Year's Day.
Yeah.
I believe. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's 9 a.m.
And it is now officially in the mountain zone, I believe, the new year.
It is. Yep. Happy New Year out there.
Happy New Year,
Mountain
guys.
zone. Yeah. Mountain time zone.
You crazy motherfuckers, you.
Yeah. Living in that weird in between space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't just pick one or the other.
No. Let's see. I was kind of wondering, what do you think was your most underrated film of the year?
That's probably where I'd throw in Saturday Night. I don't think Saturday Night got enough attention. And I don't think people, and maybe it was the way they marketed it, maybe it was the title. Because I don't think enough, because you have to explain to people what it is for them to understand. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah.
I think there's another issue. I
Yeah,
think that Saturday Night Live is such a political, crappy thing these days that I think that you say that to people and they're not even excited to see the history of the show. I am able to disconnect from that and think about the early days, and I can understand why a movie like this would be interesting. That's why when it came out, I think the day that it came out, I was already at the theater watching
it should have been called Not Quite Ready for Prime Time. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Saturday Night is too fucking generic. Secondly, the premise sells the movie. Everybody I tell the premise to, they're like, oh, I kind of want to see that.
Yeah.
It's the 90 minutes leading up to the first broadcast of Saturday Night Live. Right? Like, okay, show me it. you know, and I enjoyed it. You're right, Price. There's shit in there that happens as for plot convenience. And there's also shit that I know for historic fact didn't happen until in some cases 5-6 years later. But it doesn't matter. Right? It's one of those kind of movies, and the way it was shot, the way it was presented, the acting is brilliant. It's a mile a minute movie. If you like it's one of the best comedies we've had in years because we don't get comedies anymore.
Right.
No.
No, I mean, it's a good movie, I agree with you, and I enjoyed it when I watched it, but I think that, the one thing that I walked out of the theater thinking to myself is, it only proves it was meant to be a celebration of Saturday Night Live and its 50 years, but what or whatever how many years, but what it really proves is how irrelevant it is today versus how edgy it was once.
Oh
You
yeah,
you
you're not
you
wrong.
kind of watch it and you're like, "Wow, Saturday Night Live was once a real thing, that was edgy stuff, that was really cool. It had like super talented people. It was driven by ambition. It was different. It was a
No, you're
middle finger.
100% right. Like the movie itself kind of has this through tone of saying "fuck you" to the man.
Right. Fuck you to the man. Today it is the man. Today it goes to the man. It bows down to the man. It asks the man, hey, do you want to spread some messages in our show? And the
It
same
it
Lauren
invites
Michaels.
the it invites the man on to be in an episode
Yeah.
of the show right before the election, even though technically that's illegal.
Right. I mean, they're so engaged with the man now that you see that, and it's like trying to show you this young, edgy Lauren Michaels. For me, it was still an enjoyable movie, but man, I can understand why some people did. You tell them Saturday they don't want to watch the show live now. Why would they go watch this movie? And maybe you're right. It could have been marketed better, but I don't know. Even if they would have marketed better, I don't know if it would have been a huge hit. Anyways, I think that Saturday Night Live as an entity today couldn't be less popular, and that's why this
Oh, I don't
movie
disagree with you.
movie doesn't really resonate with people in the same way that it could have. Mephisto says that it is 9 a.m. He slept for 7 hours, so just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that I was right and that it's 9 a.m.
No, and I think like number one, I would have called it not quite ready for prime time or not ready for prime time, and they bring that up, God knows how many times in the movie.
They do bring it up, yeah.
Which they end up being called the not ready for prime time players. I mean,
Yeah.
there was an element here, and it didn't have any marketing. That's part of the problem is they just kind of plopped it out there. And I think they just plopped it out there for more of a
I don't understand what their
Oscar
strategy
reason,
because
but
it wasn't a cheap movie to make. They had to
no.
spend some. How much
Well, the
money
money
did
I
they?
found out, well, it was $30 million. I think it was the budget. I think, but I found out why because I was like watching. I'm like, where did the money for this go? Well, the money is clearly in the fact that they shot it on film. This is
I
one of
see.
like the handful of movies this year that they actually shot on film.
Huh.
And not only that, they had to I kind of watched like a making of it, and I kind of get it now. They had to kind of go in and um really rehearse a lot of this shit ahead of time. Because if you watch this movie, you'll realize how many of these shots are all in one fucking shot.
Yeah, I
And
saw
that's
that.
because they had to
Yeah.
basically put the reel in, get it right one time. There's some clever edits here and there they had to do to be able to fit some scenes together. But don't get me wrong, like the whole movie isn't from one camera view or anything like that, but it feels like it is. You just feel like you're this observer who's just shoved into the building. You know, you're just kind of
Yeah.
walking along with
Yeah.
Lorne Michaels for 90 minutes. And it's like, and this is the crap that he had to deal with. And the casting is brilliant for the most part. Because at first I wasn't sold on it. But they got about 80 to 90% of this cast. Like I see why they hired these people now. Because they evoke those characters. Like the Dan Aykroyd guy, he becomes Dan Aykroyd. Right.
There's some good performances here. I also thought that the guy that they chose for Chevy Chase was pretty good.
Not bad. Lorne Michaels is probably one of the better ones. I mean, all the girls they got pretty good. Belushi was one that I was kind of like, meh. Like
It's
him,
hard. It's really
he was
hard.
probably the worst one of the movie because I
Probably.
don't feel like they captured him correctly. And that's
No,
probably because
no.
Jason never really knew him.
I
You know what
I
I
agree
mean?
with you. I
And they
felt that
treat him kind of like in that way of like probably how Jason saw him he was this thing, this force of nature that everybody always talked about around him, but he never really got to know. And that's kind of how he's treated in the movie too, if you look at it.
yeah, I think that that's probably the weak link when it comes to the characters, but I still it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good as it could be. But I thought that the Chevy Chase guy had the right vibe. Whoever played him, Dan Aykroyd, I thought the guy did pretty okay. The George Carlin guy, I thought was pretty decent.
I guess that's the same guy playing Jim Henson as well. Or who is it? No, same guys playing two characters. Oh, Jim
Okay,
Henson and Andy Kaufman. That's what it is.
and
Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson. That's what it was. Sorry.
Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson were both the same guy.
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah.
It's so weird that
I
they
didn't like his Andy Kaufman, but his Jim Henson was like spot on.
right. I don't know why they gave him two roles. It was the guy from Succession. I like him. Uncle, not a cousin.
Yeah, he was
cousin.
not. He was not Andy Kaufman. That was like one of the worst Andy Kaufmans I've
I
ever
don't know
seen.
why did they choose him for both roles? It almost feels like there was another actor that disappeared before
Maybe
filming, and they're just like, "Fuck it, you'll do both roles."
that's possibly what happened. I don't know. Because yeah, he is too. Because even Jim Carrey was a tough choice at first. It took me a bit to get used to that. Because I mean, I grew up with Andy Kaufman, and anybody knows who Andy Kaufman is. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
he's a very distinct individual.
Really hard to
Yeah,
recreate Andy Kaufman. He's hard, but that guy Nicholas Braun or whatever the actor's name is, like you said, he was a great Jim Henson. Didn't really sell the Andy Kaufman well.
Jim Carrey's the only person who's ever been able to pull it off.
Yeah, he did pretty well with it. I won't say that he didn't.
The only other person that probably could have was their second choice for that, which was Edward Norton, but they didn't want to deal with Norton.
Yeah,
I think Norton could have pulled off Andy Kaufman,
might have.
You know what? I think maybe he could have. Edward
but he's
Norton
too
is a
old
good
now.
actor.
But
Yeah.
It's a shame because Edward Norton is a good actor, but at the same time, nobody wants to work with him.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
No, he's
but
like
a huge
Dustin
pain in
Hoffman,
the
yeah.
ass. No one.
No,
wants
I've been
to
told that
deal
by
with him.
more than one person. If you've ever seen the movie The Birdman,
Yes,
I've been told by
Yes.
multiple people that's basically what he's like in real life.
He's playing himself.
Yeah.
That's I've heard that as well. That he's basically playing himself in that film.
Which is sad because he's talented and he knows it, but
He's
it's how he
incredibly
goes about
talented.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
He could have had more stuff. I really feel like it's an actor that we got some good roles from him, but there probably were a lot more good roles that we didn't get
could have been
because they just don't want to work with him.
I
Oh,
cannot-
Matthew,
So I just cannot believe Saturday Night. It made $9 million. That's
it's
it.
because they didn't release it anywhere.
Yeah,
That
well,
was what
it
we were
looks like
saying. Yeah.
it
What's
had
their
a
end
limited
game?
release, and then it had a release and a wide release on October 11th, which I guess was the anniversary of the original
I
broadcast.
think that's the whole thing is they were trying to get it out there just for that and Oscar
so,
bait.
but then it only really had wide release for like 3 weeks.
But tell me,
So-
Tom, what were they thinking to themselves? I feel like there was no promotion. How did they think they were going to make the money back?
I think this was Jason Reitman got to make this for doing Ghostbusters. That's what I think this was. This is his little passion project. And you can tell.
But Ghostbusters 2, he didn't even do that one. He passed it.
No, he produced it. But that's what I'm saying. Since he did Afterlife, I think this was his payoff for that and also overseeing the rest of the Ghostbusters stuff. I could be wrong. But no, I agree with you guys. This makes no sense because this is probably one of the few things Sony released this year that might actually have a chance at some Oscar consideration, even though it probably won't get any. I can't really highlight anybody in the cast that or anything like that. But I mean, maybe editing, perhaps it could get something, but I doubt it. We all know Wicked's gonna sweep the fucking Oscars, unfortunately.
Oh, God,
because it's the same that are in the damn thing that are gonna be voting for it. So like yes, I said a naughty word that starts with F.
Yeah. Sorry, Sean.
Sorry, Sean.
And I don't mean it in the derogatory term. I just mean it in the sense of like, Jesus Christ. I mean, come on, guys, get out of your own fucking element for once. Because that's the other thing is they're using this Wicked thing as a success to see like, look, people like woke stuff.
Yeah, no, they don't. No, they don't.
When
There's a lot of other movies to prove that no, they don't. This was a bunch of people who have been fans of the musical for ages and wanted to go see it, and then some strong marketing. I'm going to be really interested to see who's going to go back to the theaters for the second one. If there's going to be people who are just put off by this, and
I'm going to be an
they're
asshole
not
and I'm going to
gonna
start
go back.
going around and spoil the shit because I've never even seen it, but I know the stuff like Price brought out about the daddy issues and shit in the movie.
Yeah.
And I wonder how they're going to handle that.
Yeah.
What's your big underrated one for the year, Price?
Yeah, what's yours, Price? You said you were about to tell us what yours choice was.
I think Juror number 2 is probably the biggest underrated.
Yeah. It's sad because of the bullshit that's going around about that movie, because I do believe the other side of it, because for those who may have not have paid attention over at Mead, I've had an inside track or two on Warner Brothers for a while. It's kind of tapered off a bit, but let's just say I do somebody who is pretty close to Zaslav. And I believe the version of the story where, because the press ran with this idea that they were doing Clint Eastwood dirty. And they were just hiding his movie, putting it in 50 theaters for a couple weeks, and then pulling it out. And
Certainly seems that way.
That's what it looked like. Well, here was the deal that I found out. That deal was made under Kalar, and it was meant to go straight to streaming.
Yeah.
And word is that Zaslav saw it, saw how good it was, and said, we got to put this out in at least a few theaters for Oscar consideration. Because there was no contract or deal for it to go to theaters, is my understanding. So even though they were trying to paint Zaslav as some fucking monster in this equation, he was the one that got it out in theaters. It was never going to go to theaters. It was going to go straight to Max. It was even shot straight for Max. That was the understanding, I guess. And there was also this idea that you can't let Clint Eastwood's possible last movie go straight to streaming, was the other thing. So they tried painting him as the guy who was like, oh, no, it was Kalar who was bitching about his last few movies not making any money and the amount of money that was spent on The Mule. And the other one that he did, the about the chicken fighting. What the hell was it called? Oh, Cry Macho.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah.
See, because that's what we got to remember is a lot of these movies up until more recently were not films that were greenlit under Zaslav's regime.
Yeah.
He fast-tracked Joker 2 and a couple other things, but we're just starting to now get into the stuff like that is his regime. I think Beetlejuice was one of them. I don't even think Wonka he could take credit for. And Barbie he couldn't technically take credit for. But after that, I think is when you're kind of getting into the more regime, because then, but we'll have to see how the next few years go. I mean, do I think he's the answer to anything necessarily? I don't know. All I know is what I knew about him. And then I brought up, and this was kind of weird because before he was even part of the conversation, this was like 3 or 4 years ago, because I remember it was after the premiere of Discovery. So I was asking everybody about stuff that they had at my family Christmas parties and family events. And one thing that kept being brought up every time I'd ask somebody about what they watch on streaming, because streaming was kind of brand new too at the time. They kept saying, "Oh no, we don't have CBS All Access, or we don't have this or that or the other, but we got to have Discovery Plus." And everybody why Discovery Plus? What is the fucking deal with Discovery Plus? I couldn't understand it, so I started asking why. And they all said, "Well, then we miss out on this, or we don't get to see this aspect of this, or this show's on here, and that's the only place we get to see it." So whatever it is that Zaslav was doing over that Discovery, for better or worse, that I know there's a lot of people that are pissed, or supposedly a lot of people that are pissed about what he did. There must be a hell of a lot more people watching it. And that's what I keep trying to tell people. Is like, I get it. You don't like what he did to Discovery, but the ratings are there, and it is one of the most, at that time, everybody I talked to, he had Netflix and Discovery Plus, and that's it. And that's what I couldn't figure out. So I started doing research on this guy, and it was what it was. And he's the type of guy who comes in and he's not afraid to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because I also remind people, he was the guy that made Discovery what it was to begin with. So he was basically undoing everything that he had done to try and reinvigorate this shit.
So there's no doubt that when it comes to Discovery and everything that he did there, you like it, you don't like it. The results speak for themselves. I've never thought that Zaslav, from the first day, I never thought he was a bozo. Even though when he came and they're like, "Oh, he's not real Hollywood, he's reality," whatever it is, I said to myself, this guy is the only guy that knows how to make money. He came in there as a guy that makes money. HBO with all their, the Warner with all their fancy executives and those Ann Sarnoff and all those idiots, they were losing money.
Yeah, people don't understand how much of a chaotic mess Warner Brothers had been for the last 2 decades.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of children running around with their heads cut off, spending money, compartmentalized, right? Like I've told the story, and I'll try to keep it as quick as possible. You want to know why it took us so long to get the Batman animated series on Blu-ray? Stupidity.
I believe
because you had DC was separate from the animation department, and the animation department controlled anything that was animation. It didn't matter if it was DC related or not. So you had all the people over at DC going, "We really need to get the Batman animated series out on Blu-ray. People love it. They're clamoring for it. They're asking for it. It's probably the #1 most sought after fucking thing we have." People at animation department are like, "Nah, we don't want to deal with it right now." it finally it took some people over at Warner Archive, a completely separate division, to get involved. And when they finally did, they did the discs, they put them up for pre-order, sold out in like an hour.
Yeah.
Because when they do them for Warner Archive, it's a limited run.
Mhm.
And then everybody's like, oh shit, this is pretty fucking popular. Maybe we should just put out a regular release of this. And then everybody's like, duh. You know, like that's like Warner Brothers in a nutshell for the last 2 decades. They're so compartmentalized. One part of the company doesn't know what the other part of the company is doing to the other part of the company, and it would take 10 fucking people to get anything done. You talk about the chain of command at shit like Disney, at least they got their shit together, right? Over at Warner Brothers, from the stories that I would hear behind the scenes over there, and I had some connections for years over there, and it was nothing but fucking chaos. And I could still, to this day, until more recent years, could never figure out why Toby Emmerich was running Warner Brothers. You know what this motherfucker's claim to fame was? He was most well known for stealing the script for the movie Frequency. And I'm like, why is he running Warner Brothers? And I could never understand why Bob gave him New Line Cinema, but that was because Bob and him got into Bob and Mike DeLuca kind of got into it at one point. Because I always said Mike DeLuca is the guy who should have been running this company for the last 30 fucking years. He should have took over New Line, and then he should have took over Warner Brothers. But for some reason that never happened. Well, I found out because behind the scenes they had a bit of a falling out in more recent years. But that's neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, this fucking guy, Toby Emmerich's been running Warner Brothers and one of the most powerful fucking companies in the world into the ground for the last 2 decades. Do you guys realize? I know you guys remember this, but you guys in the chat, do you guys realize there was a point where Warner Brothers was like twice as big as Disney?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a time like that.
They were huge. They were Hollywood.
By the way, Frequency wasn't a bad movie for whatever it's
No,
worth.
the movie's fine, but he stole the fucking script.
Who did he steal it from? I never knew this. Who did
Some
he steal
lady. You could look it up out there. Just write Frequency script.
Did he acknowledge it? Did he have to pay her?
Oh, yeah, I think they paid her out.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That's probably Dennis Quaid's best movie. Maybe
it's a
that
good movie.
Inner
Yeah,
Space.
Mm-hmm.
Inner Space and Frequency. I like.
Otherwise, what would you say R2 would be like the most underrated film this year?
You know, honestly, I didn't get to the theaters very much this year, but I think if there's something I did that I got to see that I think deserved a bigger audience, deserved more people.
The Crow was awful.
God, no.
No, we didn't even we forgot about that during worst films. That's how bad that was.
Terrible movie, yeah.
The Wild Robot, I think deserved.
I heard that was good.
I don't know if I call that underrated, but I get where you're coming from. I mean, that movie has gotten a lot of buzz. It's making tons of money. They already got a sequel. So
oh yeah, they've got a trilogy of books to work with. But yeah, I mean, you had other movies that did way better, like Despicable Me 4, like, you know, other kids movies like Despicable Me 4, Kung Fu Panda 4 did better than that, and it's ridiculous. Wild Robot was so much better than those films.
I guess I don't feel bad for it because it did get the buzz.
Yeah, it did do pretty well, but it should have done better. But yeah, probably I would. And then like if I were to say like most disappointing thing this year. Mm-hmm. Dune Part 2.
Oh God, yes. Thanks for reminding me. I forgot that came out this year.
Utterly disappointed in that film. I really did enjoy the first one. I liked where they were going with the characters and how they were developed. I enjoyed the acting for the most part. Was really good. And the second one was such a letdown.
Well, here's the problem is the first book is all stuff, or first movie is all stuff from the book. The second movie, about halfway through, they start to deviate.
They're just making it up. Yeah.
And once they start deviating, that's where the problems set in. And and look, I don't care about them changing stuff. It's how they changed it and what they changed and why. Because it's what they did to Chani. And not doing the time jump and not having his sister born. All those things now set up a problem for the next movie because the story needs those things to happen.
I understand where you're going with it, but I'll say that compared to other disappointing movies, I don't think that Dune 2 was as disappointing as some other movies.
I put it like middle of the road disappointment, but I understand where R2 is coming from. Walking out of that movie was probably one of the more pissed.
Yeah, I really wanted that to be good.
People keep forgetting about Furiosa. That was kind of disappointing.
Well, some people liked it though.
You know, I'll tell you what, I watched it and I thought to myself, there's worse movies that I've seen, but considering that it's a Mad Max and just in general, it
Yeah.
wasn't great. But it was better than Madam Web.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem, right? Like that's where I have an issue with. Okay, see, that's another reason why. Like, how do you consider Madam Web? Are you rating it because it's supposed to be a Spider-Man movie or Spider-Man related?
No, I'm
Same kind
not
of thing with
rating at
Furiosa,
anything. I
because like
went in.
and I no, I just want let me finish real quick because I am been somebody who's been vocally against that film for the very reason that I hated Fury Road. As I kept trying to tell people, that shit's proto fucking
I didn't
woke.
like Fury Road either, though.
But no, I know. But I mean, some people
Yeah.
liked Furiosa, and I'm like, I don't have a problem with people liking Furiosa or it being a movie that exists. My problem with it existing is the fact that they have to have splattered Mad Max on it to even have it be anything. If it had been its own thing, I don't think anybody would have gave a shit. And I don't know if that's the point you were going to get to anyway, Price. But that's just what I wanted to say as far as like
Yeah,
the only reason I had anything against it.
I'll tell you this, Madam Web, it doesn't matter if you're looking at it from a Spider-Man angle, if you're looking at it from a comic book angle, or just as a movie, no matter how you look at it is awful. It is so bad, laughably bad, that I can't even explain it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's not a movie. There's something about it that it's so poorly made, and when you learn the budget of this movie and you see what they did, it has nothing to do with Spider-Man or anything. Not even the message, not even the woke stuff. It's so bad that it overcomes, it sort of supersedes, or whatever you want to call it, anything else you can say, just because it functions so poorly as a movie.
Yeah. But I wasn't I was saying with Dune too, like, disappointed, as in, I really had high
Right,
hopes
because
for
the
this
first one was
movie.
decent. I understand what you guys are
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably as far as like the most worthless movies of the year could probably go to things like Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I mean,
Moana 2.
yeah, that's another one.
Why?
Alien Romulus.
There's
I actually
something
didn't
in the
hate Kingdom.
water.
Yeah, I didn't like Kingdom of the Planet of the or I mean, I liked Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but I'd probably put it on that list of why. And the reason I would is because it wasn't anything new enough. There wasn't any, it was the same shit all over again.
That
It's
one
like
was another mediocre one. You know,
exactly.
there's certainly movies that I would put in the mediocre basket, and Furiosa, The Kingdom of whatever, the Apes, I would put that in there.
Oh, I know an underrated one.
What is
The
it?
Beekeeper.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
That
Yeah.
was great.
underrated, but I wouldn't say that it's spectacular as much as, like, for a fun action kind of
I don't know, I've watched it
mindless
a few times now. So.
mindless Jason Statham action movie, it was fun. I liked it.
But the
But
one that I felt like I don't know, I have a weird I think you saw this one too, Price, and you did not like it. But the one that has really grown on me and I've watched quite a few times now, and I feel like didn't get a fair shake is probably Horizon.
which one? Horizon? I didn't watch it.
Oh, I thought you did. Maybe
No, I haven't
thought-
watched it yet, so I
yeah.
can't say.
Okay, yeah, because and again, I can't argue with the things that are against it because I kind of technically gave it a bad review, right, when it came out. And the only reason I reviewed it the way I did is because it's half a movie or a fourth of a movie, depending on how you look at it at this point.
Yeah.
It should just be a mini series. But every time I turn it on or I catch it or whatever, I can't stop watching it. It's one of those movies. Like Kevin Costner has whatever that is that Scorsese and Tarantino have that suck me into whatever it is. Because I even watched the fucking Postman a couple weeks back for the first time, and I'm like, movie wasn't bad. It was just badly marketed. Like, that was the problem. But again, it's just that's one movie I felt like did not get a fair shake this year. Probably. I don't know what some people in the chat feel about it if they got a chance to see it. I know a lot of people finally discovered it on Max later on, but which is probably where it should have been in the first place, is some streaming. I don't know why Costner and Sheridan just didn't work it out between the two of them, that it wasn't just a spin-off of Yellowstone, but
Yeah.
hey.
Those are two stupid people that
Yeah.
I think what they did was they ruined Yellowstone with their egos, and I'll always be bummed out about it.
Me
And then
too, man,
probably
'cause
ruined Horizon with their egos. Like, if they could have gotten along and made the two of them work together, then they
Could have been
both could have
great,
been better.
probably, yeah.
well, Horizon's the only one that Horizon actually does have a bit of a horizon to look forward to, it sounds like, considering the success it's had on Max. It sounds like HBO might be ponying up the money to finish it off. I don't know if you guys have been hearing the rumors on that. So it might turn out that Kevin's the one who comes out smelling more like roses.
Could be.
In the end. He is kind of the comeback kid, though. He does that every single fucking time. He manages to find a way to, just when you think he's out, it's like he manages to just kind of find a way to squeeze back in somehow. And I can't hate him. And he's probably an asshole in real life, too, because he seems like the kind of guy who'd be a real dick to deal with. But there also seems to be this like really kind of kid natured, naive side to him, too, that I think is what makes him enduring, and I think that's why he sticks around the way he does. So there does seem to be a genuine quality about him, even though he does have it seems like he's probably a gruff, rough asshole to deal with when it comes to business. And clearly, he's probably not the best of husbands because how many wives has he had now? And he keeps getting screwed over worse every time.
Yeah, no, I
Boy.
guess that's not his thing.
Well, gosh.
I don't know. I didn't go to as many movies this year as I probably should have, though. I know, Price, you go to a lot of movies, but
Yeah, I've seen a lot of movies. I also saw Y2K, and that was a pretty bad movie.
oh god, yeah, you could probably but that's again, is that one that you would even expect to be any good to begin with?
You know what? The thing is, it's not that I expected it to be good, and it was a lower budget movie. But what I'll say is that when I watched it, there were moments of it that I thought that there was something here that in the hands of different people could have been an interesting idea. Doing like a quote unquote period piece in the 90s, a little bit of that nostalgia, but that there's some kind of like boogeyman monster going around killing people in the 90s and kind of a throwback. There was something there that you could have done that would have been interesting. It's just the way it was done was really, really poor. And that's
Yeah,
what annoys me about the movie. A lot of times I see a movie and I think there may have been a good idea here, but it's certainly
right.
not executed well.
Or at
It's
least part of it
executed
is,
very
and
poorly.
yeah. No, I get that a lot too, and the one I'm afraid to watch this year because I wanna root for it, but I know it's bad is Megalopolis. Have either of you guys seen that one or not?
I've seen Megalopolis.
How bad is it?
You know what? I stun people every time I say this. I didn't hate it. I thought to myself,
That gives me some hope.
I I looked at it and I thought to myself, Francis Ford Coppola, he had a movie that he wanted to make. It has its own style. You know how we were watching, Eggers' Nosferatu, and we were thinking about how he wanted to remake the original, and we understood the context of what he was doing. I think that Megalopolis is sort of a love letter to older movies like Metropolis, like a lot of these kind of
I was
maybe
wondering about that.
some kind of old cinema stuff, whether it's French film noir, German
Right.
expressionism. It feels like there were a lot of things that influenced Francis Ford Coppola to become a filmmaker, and he wanted to sort of do a tip of the hat, a love letter to all these different styles. The thing is that it's so niche. It's so niche. The average
Yeah.
moviegoer, it probably wouldn't speak to them. That he spent $120 million making a movie that I think is really it's a movie that should have been made for, if possible, for like 5 to 10 million, 15 million, twenty
Well,
million. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, and I get it because, like, here's the thing, and that was what I was wondering: is it people not getting this movie because they just don't get old school kind of filmmaking, and that's the kind of guy that Francis Ford Coppola is, or is it because either way, it's a win-win for us. Because here's the thing about Francis: when he's on and he's firing and he's
Yeah.
bringing you the goods, it's on, right? Like he's one of the best of
Mhm.
the best. But when he is off in a glorious fucking way. And when that's like, because you go back through his filmography, and he's got some of the greatest greats, and he's got some of the worst lows
It's
of some
listen,
directors.
this is no
It's like,
Godfather. This is no Godfather. But the thing is that a lot of people were laughing at it. They're like, "Oh, he cuts back and forth. It's surreal. Why is this person dreaming? This doesn't make sense." But I don't know. You're a guy that's a cinema buff, but I'll tell you, when I studied film, I would be watching stuff from France, stuff that's like surreal, things that don't quite make sense. I watched a lot of these kind of older, whether it's silent or then later, French cinema, a lot of things that your average moviegoer today would see it and they would scratch their head and they wouldn't even know what they're looking at and they think it's crap and
avant-garde, yeah.
they'd hate it. I think that he was going for a lot of different ideas. It's easy to laugh at it, but I really feel like he had a certain something that he was trying to do. It's just something that doesn't speak to most people, and I didn't think it was complete crap. But I also, even with the fact that I was more patient towards it than many other people that have watched it. I also won't say that it's his best movie. I just said that somehow I like that he had a certain vision. He was ambitious and he wanted to do it, and I didn't fully hate it.
Well, at least that makes me
Alright.
look forward to it a little bit
Yeah.
more than I was.
Yeah.
Because before I was like, "Oh god, this is gonna be a train wreck."
I've kind of been waiting for that one to hit a streaming service
Yeah,
somewhere for me to
it doesn't
watch.
guarantee that you guys are gonna like it. I've given my background on
Right.
it, but I feel like if you didn't study cinema and if you're not familiar with kind of older cinema,
Yeah.
silent cinema, things like that, you may look at this and think that it's terrible. But I
Yeah.
kind of had a different feeling about it. I thought it was ambitious, even if not perfect, it was ambitious and somewhat interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, yeah, I've been kind of avoiding it because I was just like, I don't want to be, once you finally pull the band-aid off, it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's like,
It's in a quantum state right now. It could be good,
yeah.
it could be
Neither
bad.
of you are
It
gonna
what
watch
you
it and think
actually
this is
want.
the new Godfather.
Oh,
I
no,
don't
I
think
never
No,
planned
no.
on that,
you're
but,
not
like,
gonna say you loved it. Neither of you. You're gonna
but
say
I'm
maybe
somebody that
sorry, go
loves
on.
Francis when he's at his
Yes.
best and at his worst,
Yes.
so
Yep. Oh, goodness.
But, yeah, I thought I'm trying to think what else. Was Wish this year? That was last year, I think.
I think that was the end of tail end of
Yeah, that was
last
a
Tail
year,
end of
terrible
yeah.
last
movie.
year, yep.
Wish was
Yeah.
terrible. I
Did
saw
anybody see the
Challengers.
Gladiator one? Oh.
Gladiator was disappointing. I saw Gladiator. I thought it was an unnecessary movie. The movie proves that it's unnecessary. It's not a great movie. It's not the worst. Like when I think of Madam Web, it's certainly a
Right.
mediocre movie. It's
Yeah.
disappointing. It's unnecessary, and it's very mediocre. Uh, Challengers is a movie that people thought. I don't know. There's some people that like
Oh
to kiss that
god.
director's ass. I thought
Why?
Challengers was terrible. I
Ugh.
did a review on Challengers that initially there was like 3 people that watched it, but over time, like, because I think it's a movie that nobody even bothered watching. It has Zendaya in it, and it has the guy that they're considering for James Bond.
Yes.
I don't like that guy at all. I don't like him at all, not just his picture, I don't like him in that movie, in that Challengers movie. I think that whole thing is lame. So, do you know what I'm talking about with Challengers? Does anybody know
That
what
was
it
that
is?
Yeah.
yeah, was
No,
that the
no,
movie
yeah.
she had the threesome in or whatever?
Yeah,
Yes.
whatever it is. Terrible, terrible movie. I saw it, I reviewed it, and initially, I guess nobody saw the movie, so I had, like, 3 people that watched my review, but over time, I've noticed that already, like, thousands have watched it. It's like
Women have
because
discovered it on streaming, I guess.
maybe
Mhm.
somebody discovered it on streaming, and I think once they, like, Google it, like, I feel like I'm the only one that ever reviewed it, this piece of crap movie. So suddenly, like,
You and
I
Culture Casino, yes.
Yep.
well, I didn't see his review. I'm surprised he reviewed it, though.
No, I just
Mhm.
remember him talking about it because he was, like, obsessed with it.
You know, they kind of tried to make it seem like it would be this cool sports drama, and at the end, it was a Zendaya "You Go Girl" movie. It was not a sports drama, and it was directed by that Luca de Guadagnino guy that the
Yeah.
press keeps kissing his ass. Every studio wants to give
Yes.
him a movie. You know, he's gonna do this. He's gonna do a DC movie with Daniel Craig. Every second, he's being like quote unquote promised a different movie. He's a guy that does like LG
Yeah. I mean,
propaganda
he
stuff.
made a movie called Queer. They love him now. He's royalty as far as
He's
Hollywood
made a
is
few
concerned.
You know
movies
what?
like
We should
that.
just make a movie and get it over with.
So yeah, that Challengers movie was terrible, and my review. I feel really good about the review I gave it. It was such a good explanation as to why the movie is bad,
I
and
don't know, I tried to go see that Queer movie, but I kept thinking my car had a leak out in the parking lot, so I didn't get to see most of it.
I wasn't even planning on going to that one.
That's a little bit of multi-level joke. You gotta think about it for a minute.
No, I kind of
Yeah.
I think I
I think
understood what you meant.
R2 got it, but yeah.
No, I got it. But I'm
It's
just
because
saying
they're
that
so silly.
I like to review most movies. Sometimes there's movies that I say to myself, you know what, I'm going to skip this one. So this year, I think Queer and like Moana 2 were on the skip list for me because I didn't see Moana 1.
Should Moana 1 or Moana 2 even count as a movie considering it was a TV show
Yeah, it was
turned
just a
into a
TV show that
movie?
they rushed into a film. Yeah.
It
Well,
kind of reminds me of back in the day, like that's what it must have been like growing up in the 50s and 60s when they used to pull that shit when they would take like the pilot episode of a fucking TV show and throw it out as a movie.
Yeah.
like they did with that Superman, and I mean, almost with Batman. At least Batman was an actual movie, but they pretty much used the same crew and production shit as the TV show
Yep.
anyway, so it didn't really
Yep.
fucking
They
matter.
just used some different cameras and made a movie out of
Yeah,
it.
they just used the Panavision cameras was the
Yep.
only real difference. Yeah.
Yep. Same costumes, same actors, same sets. Yeah.
It's
So,
a
yeah,
movie, kids.
Yeah.
No,
It
it's
was
not. It's the first 4 episodes of She-Ra crammed together, you fucking liar.
You know what? Those first four episodes of She-Ra, I saw it in the theater because it was billed as a He-Man and She-Ra movie, and I
It
wanted to
was.
go see what that is.
Mhm.
The
What is
Sword
it
of
like, the
Power or
Sword
whatever,
and the
yeah.
Stone? What did they call that thing?
The power of the is that what the
The
fuck was it
Power
called?
of
Now you just
Grayskull?
The Secret of the Sword.
Secret of the Sword. I was close enough. I was close.
I've
Give
got
me
like
some
5 different
props here.
versions of that movie, but yes.
Give me some
They're all the
props that
same
I knew
movie.
that the
It's just
Secret of
I
the
have like a
Sword,
35 millimeter scan. I have like the old DVD of it. I have like
I sat in a movie. Honestly, it's not that I even really wanted to see that movie. I didn't really know anything about it. I probably, like, if it would have been on TV, I would have seen it. I didn't even know about the movie, but I had a friend uh growing up, and I guess he wanted to see it, and I was sort of a guest. I went to his house and he
Oh,
convinced his
okay.
mother to take us to see this movie.
Gotcha.
So I
Well,
I
no, it
al-
was weird is She-Ra actually has a bit more story and thought put into her than He-Man ever did. I mean, don't get me wrong, He-Man does I mean, I'm a He-Man defender, and I hate it when
You know
people are
what?
like, "Oh, it was just a cartoon
I
for to
kind
sell
of
a
liked
toy,"
it.
but
I remember sitting in the theater. I wasn't I don't know how I felt about it, but once I sat there and saw the movie, I didn't dislike it.
well, She-Ra actually has a really complicated backstory. I mean, He-Man is kind of simplified and
Yeah,
straightforward.
I mean, Hordak, they took her and then she was one of them. I like
She's
the whole
brainwashed, yeah.
you
Mhm.
know what? As a kid, I liked the idea that she was his sister, but she didn't remember. And then, like, he suddenly had to jog her memory, and suddenly she became good. As a kid, I don't know why that kind of had an impact on me. I liked the whole storyline. Not gonna lie to you.
No, that's what I'm saying. It actually has some
Yeah.
depth to it. And then you have where the story goes on, where she joins the rebels. Sure, there's a lot of Star Wars in it. I mean, look at it. If you step back and look at it, it kind of is. But they add that element. The one element that makes it different is that she was kidnapped and brainwashed, and she's a villain for the first half of the pilot, episodes. Because there's like 4 or 5 episodes that they cram together into that movie. But it's all like a
Only
four.
once they put, like, He-Man in that jail and try to suck his energy out or whatever it
Yeah.
is that he starts, like, she develops sort of a conscience and she decides to save him.
Well,
I
once
kind of
she
liked
takes
all
the
that.
power is when everything comes back to her, right? Like this
Mhm.
power of the sword is what finally undoes the
Right,
spell or whatever
right.
you want to call it. But yeah,
You know
but
what?
no, like it works. It works for at the time, and it actually felt like they actually put some thought into it, and for a
When they put
strong
those
female
4
character.
together,
Yeah.
when I saw it in the theater as, like, when they stitched together the 4 episodes, it didn't feel to me as a kid, I totally bought it as a movie. I was 100% feeling that I was
Well, it was
watching a
because it was
movie.
produced that way, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Because when they
It
actually
was
split it up for TV, they actually
right.
changed a few things a little bit to actually split it up into episodes. But
Oh, you're saying the TV versions, they added stuff to it?
I think it does actually have a couple of scenes that were taken out and changed, and then they had, they have to put a beginning and an ending to it. So it was like that's why I can't remember if it was 4. I think it's 5 episodes,
And
and
you
it
know,
is. It's just basically the first 5 episodes of the season. But yeah,
to this day, I always remember, like, when I saw it in the theater, I like the thing where they're both transforming together. When it's like, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power," and then he's like, I don't remember what she says, and then she's like,
for the honor of
"For the
Grayskull.
The
honor of
honor.
Grayskull, yes, I am Shira," and then, like, they both become, and they do, like, they combine the 2 transformations together
It's
into, like,
really classic, actually, if you think about it, because men are all about power and
Mhm.
protection, and women are about honor.
Yeah.
it's perfect. It's
Protecting
perfect.
their
It's a
honor and
wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful scene that they both, like, do their transformation. Really, really liked it. I remember as a
And
kid,
she's unapologetically girly too. Like that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like
she
they even give her a
she's
fucking horse,
And there was
winged
nothing
horse.
wrong
And
with that.
there's nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with
She
it.
looks like a well put together lady.
the show wasn't the problem. The problem was the toys. And we
Right.
actually cover this in our documentary.
Yeah, I
And that
mean,
was
I've seen a
because
lot of documentaries, even in interviews with people, that they said that the second that they made it where there's a woman in this universe, it made the boys not like He-Man. Like,
no, it wasn't that. It was the toys. And I'll tell you why. The show was great. We loved the show. It was the fact that the toys were incompatible with the Motu toys because the Barbie division came in and took over because they made the argument that it's a girl's toy, so they should get to have say on it. And what
Yep.
happened was there was this big power struggle behind the scenes at Mattel, and a couple people left over it
I didn't know that.
because it destroyed the biggest fucking brand in history. Because people forget that there was a point when Masters of the Universe, and this is why they think
Huge
they did
brand.
this, it beat Barbie, and they were pissed because they were the same company. But you guys got to remember, Barbie was king or queen
Right.
of the toy aisle for, at that point, at least 20, almost 30 years.
Right.
So you had this division going, these motherfucking boys come in and they just kick the shit out of us. Not only did they kick the shit out, they really kicked the shit. Because to this day, there's been no toy franchise that's just a straight toy franchise. If you take out Spider-Man, Batman, shit like that, the Avengers, Masters of the Universe and Ninja Turtles are still two of the top ever of all time, besides Barbie. And because girls franchises don't stick around as long. If you look at Barbie's the only one that's been the gold standard. You go back to our childhood, there's like how many fucking girls franchises that just came and fucking went between Strawberry Shortcake,
Strawberry Shortcake, Rainbow Bright.
Yeah.
You got then you had the different generations of the Care Bears and My Little Pony.
And then eventually it was Bratz and other shit. Like they come and go. Like boys stick with shit. Batman sticks around because he works. Superman sticks around because he works. He-Man's still around because he works. They've tried to revive Strawberry Shortcake and shit like that. It just doesn't work. My Little Pony, you want to know why My Little Pony sticks around? It ain't because of the girls. It's because of the fucking weird ass bronies. That's why. You think I'm kidding? They spend the most money on.
I know. It's disturbing. Yes, it's true. It's true.
Because boys stick with shit, like, and it goes with how we play with things differently, and that's why Barbie works. Is because, and I know most people know this, but it's because girls like to project themselves onto what they're doing. So Barbie works because you can be anything with Barbie. That's why Barbie's anything. She's you have Pilot Barbie, you have Dr. Barbie, you have Fireman Barbie for all I fucking know at this point. But He-Man's He-Man. So when a boy goes, I like He-Man, he's gonna learn everything there is to know about He-Man. Oh, I like Batman, so I'm going to learn everything there is to know about Batman. It's not about projecting myself into Batman. I want to become Batman. Like, that's the way men think about things, right? Like, that's why role models are important to men, and I don't think women understand that. Because women, from the day they're born, are taught to be individuals and to do this and and to be creative and think outside the box like that. For men, our idea is we like to look up to people like, oh, I want to be like him, so that's the guy I need to learn to be like and do the things that he does, and that's how we learn and we navigate through society differently than women. It's just the way it is. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's a little different for girls because throughout history, in more modern times, you guys have actually had this ability. I get it. You guys were kind of more traditionally put in a position where you were meant to, more or less just raise kids and do certain things, but again, I try to remind people, don't forget that most wars were fought over women. So just keep that in mind, at least prior to oil being involved.
Yep. Oh goodness, we got 15 minutes till we get to have the new year over.
I'm sorry.
Pacific.
All right.
No, it's fine. No, I was just gonna say.
No, at this point, we got to get to the 15 minutes, and then we'll.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, let's
wrap
just
it up.
real quickly. Let's maybe, what are we looking forward to in 2025? Anything?
Hopefully, some sanity to come back.
Oh, that.
Is there some good movies? Can we expect some good movies this year, Tom?
Oh well, let's see. What's Disney got on offer? Brave New World. Oh God,
no, that's gonna be crap.
Snow White. Oh
crap.
No. Thunderbolts.
I wonder if we'll get some surprises. See, I don't know if we'll have so much of the standard fare, but I wonder if there'll be some stuff that we don't know about yet.
I'm cautiously optimistic about the live action Lilo and Stitch. That could be fun.
Well, that's the only sure thing Disney has this year.
Because and then Elio, Fantastic Four, Freakier Friday.
Yeah, that's
Tron Ares, Zootopia 2. That's their whole slate. That's it. That's all of next year. That's
the only reason I would probably even think
movies.
Tron might be okay is because they are getting Jeff Bridges back and stuff, but I don't know. Jared Leto's a weird cookie.
Yeah, that one's I didn't really care for the first one, so I'm not sure about the next one.
I like the others, but yeah, I can see
Um,
where they're not everybody's cup of tea.
let's see what's
I like them.
Warner Brothers. What does Warner Brothers got coming out? Mickey 17.
That looks annoying.
Yeah. A Minecraft movie.
Ugh, that's gonna be crap.
It's gonna be bad. Sinners. Another Final Destination movie. F1. I've heard some interesting things about F1.
F1 could be okay.
Right.
Yeah, there's some
Uh,
non-franchise films coming that look
yeah.
alright, but
Of course, then we have Superman.
Mhm.
I think
Uh,
that's gonna disappoint.
yeah, the proof's going to be in the pudding on that one, but I do not hold out hope of it being any good.
I mean, we're hearing so many mixed things about it,
Yeah,
and like we were talking earlier about Zaslav, you gotta
yeah,
remember the media just
yeah.
hates him, so anything right now related to that, we're not gonna get anything.
I
We're
just
just gonna have
feel
to wait and
like
see it for ourselves.
I think it's just there's a really narrow path to success for that movie. It's what I feel like.
Understandable.
So, but I do want it to be good. I really
I
would
want it
love
to
for
be
it to be
good, but
good.
I don't think it
But
will be.
yeah, Battle of Bacton Cross. I don't.
Real quick on Superman, my prediction is I don't think
Yeah.
it's gonna be the greatest ever, but I think it's gonna be good enough that most people are gonna say it's better than Man of Steel. Or
Well,
at least
that's
it's
not
more of
going to
a
be hard to
Superman movie.
do.
Exactly, but like
Yeah.
that's the bar. It's like, okay, so I think it's gonna be a middle of the road, a little bit better than Superman Returns,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. See, I hate the whole Snyderverse. I can't stand what they did
Yeah,
with
but I also
Superman or
my
Batman
biggest
or
complaint with Gunn so far is that he couldn't ground zero this bastard because he for some reason has to hang on to his
that,
peacemaker crap and all that
yeah,
stuff. It's
yeah.
like,
And
dude, you should have just scorched earth this entire fucking thing. What are you
then
doing?
Creature Commandos. Have you seen any of that, Tom?
No, but I've heard enough to. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Is him trying to hang over this shit because people need to understand this. The Creature Commandos and even his Superman project came into being before he was ever the head of DC.
Yeah.
The original Superman Legacy movie was supposed to be more like the Batman. It was just supposed to be like an also ran DC project. And then as soon as he took over, that was where he decided, okay, now this is going to be my ground zero. But his for some reason he can't let certain things go from the past. And it's like, dude, just cast your fucking wife in a different part, right? Cast your buddies in different parts. You're already doing it with fucking Jason Momoa. So why do we need to keep some of this other shit together? I don't care if you keep the same actors, but just make it pretty
So weird.
obvious that
Why did he
yeah.
need? It's so weird that he kept Jason Momoa between you and me.
Oh no, this is obvious. This is what he should have been
Yeah.
playing in the first place.
Yeah. Gonna be Lobo.
Like that was the
Yeah.
dream casting, and that was what everybody was hearing. It was obvious, even though I'd heard, yeah, it's the obvious thing.
Yeah. And strange with the Creature Commandos thing. First, I watched the first 3 episodes of it. It's a dud. I have no interest in watching anything more of it. It's a one note. Let's just see how gruesome we can get in an episode. It's silly, but the really strange thing is, yeah, they keep talking about like where this universe starts, what's canon and what's not canon in this new DC universe.
Technically, it starts with the Suicide Squad.
Exactly, because that's the thing with Creature Commandos. He canonizes Suicide Squad because they talk about it as it happened. So
And then he
yeah,
says that certain aspects of the first season of Peacemaker aren't canon.
yeah, it's so stupid.
This is the dumb
Obviously,
part right now. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I know the thing is that these creators don't want to have to care about canon. They just want to make whatever. But then that's fine. Make whatever, but stop trying to make it a cinematic universe where everything ties together. Just go make this
That I agree
movie and
with.
make it ridiculous and do what you want with it. And it's okay if it contradicts something else because they don't all have to exist in this giant shared universe that you're doing a really bad job keeping track
Or
of.
when you do cross things over, we just have to kind of get into this understanding that
Yeah.
they're the same actor, this technically the same character, but the continuity and it may not be exactly the same from this version of this character to the other. Because as you said, this used to be the way it was in Hollywood. Shit, I remember there were times when they would make sequels and you were just hope that they got the same actors back
Right.
Yeah.
because they didn't give a fuck. Like then it was like it wasn't until like and even then they tried to hide things that were sequels because they didn't want everybody to think because they used to be like the ugly redheaded stepchild. You were being seen as being lazy as if you're doing a sequel. Like it was even like directors, it was beneath them to do a sequel.
Right. I think Rocky changed that and Godfather.
Kind of. I mean, they kind of made it a little bit. Godfather's a bit of a weird anomaly. I know a lot of people like to bring that. It's like, look, sequels have always been a part of films. I mean, serials going back to, I mean, there's tons of them, even Bond. It was what, traditionally a franchise that you could go back and say that, yeah, it was built on the idea that you had sequels. But I mean, when you hit the 80s, like they were embarrassed if they had to do a Friday the 13th part 3 or 4, but they knew it made them money, right? Like that was the thing. And Jaws 2 was the first movie to ever come out with just was like the name 2, right? Like Godfather Part 2, yes, they had Part 2 or that was Roman numerals. But it was at that point, it was like kind of like that was the turning point of like, okay, we're not even going to pretend that we're not really just cashing in on the idea of a sequel. It's not like there's really any story here. We're not, this isn't a planned thing or anything like that. Even Planet of the Apes was kind of before that too, but like if you go back to like the Universal horror movies, they don't all like tie together exact.
Isn't there
Frankenstein is one of,
Frankenstein and then the Bride of Frankenstein?
well, those have the most continuity compared to some of the other franchises in the, or so it's compared to the other, Universal horror monster movies, but they all met up eventually. And that's how you just kind of do it. You just, I don't know. I've gotten to
Yeah.
this point where I'm
Yeah.
tired of it because the problem with it is, and this is the biggest issue, is when you walk into a movie like Doctor Strange 2, and it's not really Doctor Strange 2.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
That was
WandaVision
such an
2.
awful movie. It was so awful, that movie.
And when I have to watch a movie or do homework to see a movie, I hate that. Now, if I seek it out myself and it's like an extra bonus for me, cool. But I don't want to have to do a bunch of homework to know what the fuck is going on in a movie because that's not what a movie's supposed to be.
Well, and
A
then you
movie is
also
supposed to
have
be its self-contained thing. Yeah.
with the Marvel stuff, then you have this question of like, okay, there's a world-ending threat here. Where are the dozen other superheroes that really should be helping out with this? Wh- like, why are they not here? Well, you have this big shared crazy universe, and but then for some reason, people don't show up to help fight the big bad guy at the end, right? It's always just I don't know. It's just so weird the way that they have gone with it. And I'm so tired of it. I was just looking over Universal's releases for next year, and I'm just going, geez, man, this is a nightmare next year. There's just nothing, nothing I'm looking forward to. How to Train Your Dragon, the live action, Megan 2.0.
I want to watch Megan
Uh,
2.0.
yeah, I'm not big into horror movies, so
I liked,
yeah,
you know what? Megan 1 was actually, for a horror movie, it was a little more amusing. There was a little bit
I
of,
was surprised by it.
yeah, I
yeah,
was surprised by it too. I expected it to be crap. And surprisingly, the movie had a bit of satire in it. I can't
yeah,
really explain it. And it was a bit amusing in parts, in a good
yeah.
way.
I've heard a number of people said they really enjoyed the first one. Horror is not
But
really
what I
my
liked about it was because I love like rubber monster movies, killer doll movies. That's kind of my guilty pleasure anyway. So like I'm always going to give those movies a little bit of a pass that I wouldn't normally otherwise. When they did that Child's Play remake a few years back, to me that was almost like sacrilege.
Oh,
And I went into it, and what was weird about it was I come out of it saying, you know what, the worst thing about the movie was that it was a Child's Play remake. Because the movie itself, there was elements of the movie. I'm like, if you took all these original elements that they brought to the table and made your own movie out of that, about some killer doll that can like connect with like AI or not AI, Bluetooth and all that kind of stuff, you have something there. You have a concept here. But every time they had to turn around and try and remind you that this is a remake of Child's Play is when the movie comes to a dead halt. And what they did, Megan, was basically that. They took all the newer concepts that were in that Child's Play remake and they made its own thing. Because I was looking at Child's Play, I'm like, no kid is going to want to play with this doll. Now, Megan makes sense. Megan makes 100% sense. And I'm like, now there you go. Bingo. You've done it. Because a little girl would love to have that. And not only that, the idea that this thing could tap into all these things and be basically a security thing along with this and that and all that. Now that's fucking brilliant. And what sucked is I actually had a script that was kind of similar to that I just kind of tossed out because I'm like, at this point, there's no real sense in me doing it. I kind of reconfigured some of the story, but either way, doesn't matter. I'm never going to get these things made anyhow. I've got like a pile of ideas here that'll never get done. But fucking no, I was like, this is a great idea. You guys finally got it. So I'm looking forward to part 2. I'm not saying part 2 is going to be very good, but Megan 1 was better than it had the right to be. And I can understand why people enjoyed
I
it.
rather enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
And there's just, man, a whole bunch of sequels from Universal next year. Five Nights at Freddy's
Yeah.
to The Black Phone to The Bad Guys to Nobody to. Okay, admittedly, I'm looking forward to
Nobody
that one.
too. I wouldn't mind
Looking
watching.
forward
The
to
the
that
rest
one.
sound like crap to me.
Well,
And
you're getting
then
the Wolfman Man remake out of Universal as well.
yeah, that's the Wolfman remake is coming in January, and then the other one, of course, they're I'm sure they think going to be the big one for the summer, Jurassic World Afterbirth.
Hey,
No,
say what you will and mock those films as much
Those
as you
movies
want.
make money.
They make bank. And they're one of the most consistent things in the boys' toy aisle. And that's why they shifted the gears on the Godzilla films, because somebody got smart. Instead of like, why are we making these movies for adults and doing this shit when all we're doing is selling Godzilla toys? Let's start making these movies exactly what they are, just big Saturday morning cartoons.
Yep.
Well, I mean, we're getting
Let's see.
closer to the
Almost
3.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're almost there.
Almost there.
Let's see. What else do we what do we have from Sony coming out? Paddington in Peru.
You forgot the most important sequel,
Oh,
Bridget
what's that?
Jones.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Karate Kid Legends.
Oh God, no! Don't
Yeah.
get me started on that
Yeah.
thing.
That-
That Bridget Jones thing, I don't know why each time, like every decade or so, they try to revive that stupid
you
thing.
gotta have another one. It's
Like nobody cares.
Uh,
Nobody asked for it. It was barely even anything. The first one.
it feels like
well,
one of those we have to make a movie to keep the rights kind of a thing. Like
well, I think now it's more of it's because revivals are such a big thing right
yeah.
now. I think that's why. Yeah. I'm waiting for him to do like American Pie Reunion 2 before you know it.
Oh, they'll get there. They'll get there.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, actually, I rewatched all the films, and I'm like, what's funny is the only two that really hold up are the first and the last one. So
Yeah.
I
We
don't
are
know.
getting a
American Pie always seem. I think I saw the first one. It seems stupid to me.
oh,
we
I
are
like
getting
it.
a remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I thought there
Well,
was
it's
already a
actually a
remake.
reboot. Well, it's actually a reboot.
A reboot. Okay.
No,
Wait, but
I had to create this word.
they already had.
Yes.
Isn't that itself isn't that a remake of something else?
N-
Oh,
okay,
there's something.
no.
I saw what you did, and I saw what you
Yeah,
did.
okay. I know what you did last summer is kind of a takeoff on those old books. Yeah, that old book.
Yeah.
But and I think there isn't a book called that, but they just took the name and that was the only thing. No, what this is what is a rebootquel. Well, what's a rebootquel? It's a reboot sequel.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
both a sequel and a reboot at the same time. Here's some examples of rebootquels. Halloween 2018, Scream 20, whatever the fuck it was. Anytime they use the same name as the original without adding anything after it, that's a rebootquel.
Are
Well,
they going to bring Jennifer Love Hewitt?
yes, she is in it, but what's her
Ah,
face is not the blonde chick, Buffy,
Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah,
Yeah.
How could they choose to take her and they didn't bring her?
I guess those two don't get along, is my gathering. Because this is I didn't even know this until recently, and I hated the first one.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
no, the original, I hated it because that's one thing about a horror and this kind of film is you should really there's kind of a formula and you need to have like seen the killer and oh, that's who the killer was, whatever. And then at the end of that movie, it's just some guy.
well, and the funny thing about the
I
I know what
struggle to remember that movie. I saw it and I
It's
don't remember it.
I know
it's
what you did
just
last
some
summer. I
guy.
predicted endlessly as I was watching it. It's basically it's actually the sister of the guy they killed in the beginning or whatever it was, if I remember right. Is the catch because it's
Oh
what's her
wait,
face
it's
Anne
3
Hesh who
a.m.
plays the
It's
killer.
3 a.m. where I'm at.
Oh,
So
Happy New Year,
Happy New Year to
Happy New
the people that were
West
on the West
Coasters.
Coast.
Woo!
all
Happy
you
New Year.
crazy fuckers in
All you
California.
crazy weirdos. Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, I was predicting that whole movie as we were watching it, and I was starting to calling out. I'm like, he's gonna die next, she's gonna die next, and some guy behind me goes, "If you've seen the movie, shut up." I'm like, "That's the fucking problem. I haven't seen the movie yet."
That's funny.
I was predicting the whole thing all the way through. I'm like, "It's the chicks. She's the sister of the guy they hit in the beginning." I yelled out at one point. I predicted this whole thing, and I'm like, because my friend dragged me to this movie. He's like, "It's the best movie ever. It's better than Scream." I'm like, "Better than Scream?" Yeah, no.
Well, since we got to the 3 a.m.
Yeah, we
thing,
did.
I think it's a good time to maybe go and look at some names and I know we got kicked out and we came back in, so some of these names
I just
disappeared.
got kicked out and come back in too now for some reason. I don't know. This thing's a little unstable.
But Professor, maybe you can help me with some of these names. Do you see some of them?
Sure. Let's see. We've got see, I've got the separate chats up. So let me
Now, here's the fun part. What movies take place in 2025?
oh,
I wonder.
that's a good one. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to see. Over on the Rumble side, thank you, Kivo, Eraserhead,
Oh, we actually have a list.
K41, Loyosh, Phantom Monk. Let's see,
It's a short list.
Pyromancer, and let's see. I'm not seeing anybody else. Price of Reason,
That's
Star
me.
Goose.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
Yes, Happy New Year. Istophobos, Filthy Nawa, and yeah, I think that's just about it. Or no, and then there's Dude Bro, Steph 420. Happy New Year, Dude Bro. Good to see you here tonight.
So here's the short list of films that Wikipedia says take place in the year
2025.
in 2025. 2025 Armageddon, Bill and Ted Face the Music,
Yep.
Black Panther Wakanda Forever,
Oh God.
The Door into Summer, Endgame, a 1983 film, Future Hunters, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special takes place this year, Hot Tub Time Machine 2 takes place this year, Megan, the first movie evidently did. Why did they just set that just like a couple years in the future? That's weird. I hate when movies do that. Moondram Ula Por, whatever the hell that is. Mountains May Depart. Negadon, the monster from Mars. Pacific Rim. Repo Man. That's probably these two right here. These two right here are probably the most popular ones we're going to talk about this year. Probably Repo Men. Actually, not Repo Man. Repo Men. And The Running Man. So I guess it's not Repo Man. Sorry.
Aren't they doing a reboot of The Running Man?
Yes. Oh,
Or a remake?
that's what
Sorry,
it is. That's what it
remake.
is. The 2025 film takes place this year, evidently. Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
but they're doing a remake.
So I don't remember when the first one took place. 10 Years, a 2015 film. Thor: Love and Thunder evidently happens this year. Time Cop 2 happened this year. And Zebra Man 2, Attack on Zebra City.
That's
random.
wow.
Not a good list of films.
That's
think,
a list.
no, that's weird. You would think there would be at least 100 fucking movies from the past 30 years, or not the 30 years, but prior 30 years to that they use 2025 as some random year in a movie.
Yeah.
You would think. Because it's just a nice round number, 2025. You know what I mean? Like, evidently not. Oh, well.
In the year 25.
That's 25.
Yes, I know.
No, I know. That's the problem. Yeah, a lot of them probably pick 25.
500 years, a little too early. Let's see. Some other shout outs from over on the YouTube side. Empress NM, Faye, Matthew Marcillo, Eraserhead, also over there on YouTube. Let's see. Jeanette.
I like Jeanette.
Thanks for being here. Caleb Levine.
I saw Marla Sharondoff here.
Yes, you saw Marla Sharon. There's your buddy Iev Nodick. We have Adam Gray, and also Barbara was here earlier.
Barbara, I saw her. Barbara Lawrence.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Barbara. Void King. See, I think I said Caleb Levine. Yeah, I'm sure we're missing some people from earlier.
Stephen Mac Mephisto was here. Phantom Monk, Argentum.
Well, you guys are streaming on both Rumble and YouTube. So
yes, Dude Bro Seth
and
Joshua Calkins.
Mephisto's movie reviews. Thanks for stopping by. Kelly Hans. You said you called out Stephen Mack.
And if you're on whatever platform you're on, if you're watching this and you're not following or not subscribed, feel free to do that. It's always nice.
Got
And
Jonathan
it's free.
Conroy. Oh yeah, and it's
Free,
free.
totally, yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan Conroy, Facutino 93 says Tom. Let's see.
Orcatino.
6 dropped in for just a bit, so it's good to see you, 6.
Did she
Thanks for
send a
dropping
poop
by.
emoji?
That we did not get a doo-doo emoji from 6 today.
She usually does the poop emoji.
She does like to leave
Bumper
poop
stickers and poop
emojis
emojis.
behind. Um, let's see. I think I got
I
just
always
about
thought that was
everybody.
pudding.
Oh man, well, you're in for a surprise when you get some of that pudding. Yeah, I think we got just about everybody. Price. Did you see anybody else?
No, that's it. And once again, I want to take this opportunity to wish everybody a happy new year and thank you for hanging out with us, and also just regularly. There's so many people that I see here regularly, and we're so thankful for this kind of cool core audience of people that we hang out with twice a week, every Tuesday, every Thursday at 11:45 p.m. Eastern. Again, I'm Price of Reason. You have Professor R2 here with me as the co-host, and our special guest, Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark.
Merry New Year.
I assume that you're probably already subscribed to his channels, but if you aren't, then you absolutely should be. And aside from that, I think we did our thing, right?
I think
Yes.
we got it.
I think we're good. So yeah, I guess everybody have a great year. Let's hope that 2025 is a better year than 2024. And
Yeah.
see you soon.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Merry New
Bye.
Year.
Happy New Year.